and welcome to the Prof Show. Tonight's show is called Breaking News Delphi the Appeal 3.1. Court grants oral arguments in the Delphi case. Very surprising and positive news. And we're going to be getting deeply into it tonight. So please come in, enjoy yourself. You're welcome. I'm going to uh, I'm going to give us a few minutes and we'll be right back.
Off as a fucking terrorist.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky.
Prof is a fucking terrorist. A fucking pedophile, sympathizing fucking terrorist.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
What can you say? Welcome to the circus. It is a Delphi case, and particularly the case of the state of Indiana versus Richard Allen, or the other way around in terms of the appeal. But I am so glad to see everyone tonight. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had time to get yourselves situated so you can enjoy the show tonight. I got to tell you right off the rip, I have a headache tonight. Okay, I've had a hard day, a tough day. I have a headache, but god damn, it's a good day. So I'm highly optimistic, regardless of headache or not, rough day or not. And I'm so glad to see everyone here. And so I'm going to say hello to everyone before we get started. I want to say hi to Deb, my main mod. You guys, please show Deb some appreciation in the chat, and also respect her authority, okay? Because she's in control of that chat. Um, so we got Deb, we got Rebecca Ann. Hello to you, David Rogers. Four Pitbulls Across America. Matt Payton there. We got Mustang in here. What's up, Mustang? Okay, we got Christopher is in here. Good to see you. Georgina Taylor. Hello, young lady. Call me after the show. Lowered Customs in here. Good to see you. Critter Mama. What's up, Critter Mama? Okay. Monday's here. David Rogers, as I said. Let's see who else we see in here. You know, vision's not the greatest these days, especially when it's sunny out like it is. Um, we got Victims News on Air. Hello to you, Erica Morris in the house. Welcome, Erica. Critter Mama. Okay, it's a new day. Welcome, it's a new day. We got Quadaxo Mimi. What up, Quadaxo Mimi? Nancy Drew. Hey, Nancy Drew. Brad is proud of Prof. Nancy Drew 101. Okay. Pertinent in here. Hello, Pertinent. We got Chris Owens, artist formerly known. Welcome, welcome. Now we have the crew. We have the crew here now. Marcy, hello to you. Welcome in. God bless. It's good to see you here. All right. I don't know. I may have missed someone. Oh, look, it's Vicarious Vigilante. Peggy O. What's up? The beautiful Peggy O. Hey, Peggy. Hey, support with Steffa. Hello, Steffa. Good to see you. Boy, everybody's in the house. Well, it's great to see everybody. Boy, we're gonna have a little show for you tonight. I guarantee you. American Night Mom. Hey, haven't been a while since I've seen you. Welcome back. Good to see you. All right, so you may recall that in the previous episode, we were going over section 3 of the appeal of Richard Allen, wherein we covered primarily the Betsy Blair sketch, and we were covering the judge's errors or her egregious rulings and exclusion of evidence. So we managed in the previous episode to cover Betsy Blair's sketch and the exclusion of the important witness, that's William Tobin. And so, unfortunately, those things happen, but we covered that and it took a lot of time. So, tonight we're going to focus on the other component of Section 3, which is in particular the evidence of ritual killing and the failure to investigate valid POIs and all of that stuff. So, we'll be looking at that momentarily. But to start off, I would be remiss not to jump right on in head first to the news for today, which is the granting and scheduling of oral arguments for the appellate attorneys Mark Lehman, Stacy Uliano for Richard Allen. It's absolutely fabulous news. I want to talk about that a little before we continue. So let me bring that up, okay? Whoops, that's not it. Prof. All right. There we go. I am getting oneself together. You don't bother. I can handle this, okay? I can handle it. Let's see. This says, in the Court of Appeals of Indiana, Richard M. Allen versus State of Indiana. Order, the appellant has filed a motion for oral argument. And we've seen that before, okay? We've seen the motion for oral arguments, and we were very hopeful that that thing would occur because, as we all know, there's nothing like being able to argue your point in person. And we know, as I mentioned before, that Mark Lehman, in my opinion, is a wonderful debater or presenter of an argument in the court, and we've been witness to that, because remember that Mark Lehman did give the oral arguments in the Supreme Court of Indiana in the attempt to reinstate Baldwin and Rozzi as the attorneys for Richard Allen, which at this point I'm not sure was a good move or not, but hey, let's let bygones be bygones. But Mark Lehman, in any case, did a wonderful job in that instance. And I felt compelled at the time that I watched that hearing that Mr. Lehman himself was solely responsible for that decision, because he did such a wonderful job of laying out the reasoning and arguing all the points in that effort to reinstate Baldwin and Rozzi in front of the Indiana Supreme Court. So I'm confident in Mr. Lehman's oral argument abilities, and he seems to have a wonderful skill set for that and a logical mind for laying out the points. In any case, they had made a motion for oral arguments, and we were all not very optimistic that it would be granted, but we were hopeful. And what we woke up to this morning was a discovery that indeed oral arguments have been granted by the Indiana Court of Appeals, and it's the three-judge panel has unanimously decided that, which is a thing they often do, is act in tandem or unanimously or in concert. And so what this says here is that the oral arguments for the case of Richard Allen versus State of Indiana are scheduled for the following time. Okay, and that's Monday, September 21st at 10 a.m. in Indianapolis. That's Monday, September 21st at 10 a.m. in Indianapolis at the Supreme Court courtroom in the State House Room 315. Okay, the arguments will be webcast at www.in.gov judiciary. So we will all have the opportunity to watch them live, whether we are in the courtroom or not. And will be televised on a monitor outside of the courtroom for those who can't fit in. Okay. Attorneys who plan to sit at counsel's table should arrive at least 15 minutes before the scheduled start of the argument. Each side will be allotted 30 minutes for arguments. Only 30 minutes. That means this will be an hour-long hearing. 30 minutes to give your piece. Each side will be allowed 30 minutes. The scheduled panel members are judges. Judges Vidic, Brown, and Altice. Okay, contact person for the court is Mrs. or Miss Emily Mertz, who can be reached at the number and email down below. So if you need to contact the court there, that's her contact info. And it says, in accordance with Indiana Appellate Rule 52C, counsel of record shall file with the clerk an acknowledgement of this order no later than 15 days after service of the order. The parties are reminded to comply with the Indiana rules on access to court records and Indiana Appellate Rule 53H, which means confidentiality. So this means that when they are giving their oral arguments in front of the world, because keep in mind, this is broadcast or will be broadcast to the world, unlike the trial against Richard Allen, which was held in darkness so that the world could not see the evils that were done and the travesty of justice that occurred. This particular showing will be held in front of the world in public view. And so they are being reminded that they are to not let utter out of their mouths a single word about anything that has been deemed confidential. Okay? So here's the thing. You now know the three judges, right? Is it Vidic, Brown, and Altice? Okay, so for all the special individuals in the back, the judges are listed on the document. I know we know you like to dirty delete and all, but yeah, caught you on that one again. But there are your judges. So now we know the judges who are going to be deciding this appeal. Okay, because the same judges certainly, right? Logic would dictate that the judges who are going to hear the oral arguments must be the judges who are going to be on the panel deciding the fate of Richard Allen. Okay, so um, that is the most exciting news of the day. Now, another point for that one person in the back who likes to touch children but also doesn't think very clearly. There was something else. Um, I heard word on the troll farm streets that it's very common. It's very common for defendants to be or appellants to be granted oral arguments. Oh, it's very common. Everybody gets oral arguments. Well, bullshit. Okay, so Prof did a little research, and the way that I did research is I used two of my favorite pay for AI services, who I'm not going to reveal to you, but I fact checked this twice. Okay, I fact checked the fact check. I specifically asked my two pay for AI tiers. I asked them both. I said, "Tell me this: what are the statistics for Indiana Court of Appeals in the appellate system? How many cases from the totality of cases are normally granted oral arguments in front of the court?" And you know what that figure it gave me was? And it says it's somewhat hard to determine, but this is a very much closest approximate. And they both said this. The closest approximate percentage of cases in front of the appeals court that are granted oral arguments is 7.2%. Meaning, out of every 100 cases in front of the appellate court here in Indiana, out of every 100, only 7, and let's be generous here, maybe 8, okay? 7 or 8 individuals out of 100 get the opportunity to have oral arguments presented in front of the appellate court. And wouldn't you know it, Richard Allen checked the box for being one of these 7 percenters. Okay, and the reason is because it's a high profile case. What was determined by the AI was that the preponderance of these cases that are granted oral arguments are usually due to the high profile nature of the case. And complexity does have somewhat of a factor in it, but more so high profileness matters. And so in the case of Richard Allen, you had both. You had extreme complexity, right? And extremely high profile. And that combination, the state of Indiana knows they better start covering their asses right now. And the way they think they're going to do that is, at a bare minimum, give the opportunity for oral arguments, because it's a good look. And everything that has already transpired has been such a bad look. So they didn't want to, the way I feel about this, they didn't want to have any more of a bad look. And they knew that denying this would have been more of a bad look. So at a bare minimum, they're doing what's best for public optics or politics, which is making the appearance of fairness. So they knew that in the PR world, the safest thing that the state of Indiana could do right now is grant these oral arguments and televise them, because everything else has been so bad. But let's be honest here. Do we trust them? No. Do we think there's any chance that there's going to be a fair decision from this appeals court? Not really. Do we think they're all state actors and protecting each other? Absolutely. Do we think the state of Indiana has a lot to lose if this is overturned? Zero doubt. But let's bring this into perspective. You guys surely are all aware that the Murdaugh trial and conviction has just been overturned, right? Well, if it's obvious that that guy is a cold-blooded killer, and due to technicalities, his trial was overturned. Shouldn't it be even more incumbent upon the state of Indiana to overturn Richard Allen's conviction when it's absolutely obvious that there was corruption involved, there was a railroading involved, there was the hiding of evidence, there was the lying to the lawyers, there was the manipulation of witnesses, and there was the destruction of evidence. There was also the forced incarceration and drugging and psychosis and extracted confessions under duress of Richard Allen. And there was the whole failure to investigate the actual viable leads and the solid POIs that had surfaced over the years. And some of them, in fact, in the very first days of this murder. Yeah. So you see, the thing is, we speak facts here, and so you're going to have to be able to put up with it. It's part of the reason I'm the most hated man in Delphi, even though I'm an absolute pussycat. I do nothing wrong, and I'm only here trying to give my best to these two girls. That's Abby and Libby. Speaking the truth to power will always get you targeted, especially when we know that there's a whole team of people out here working on behalf of the state. And that's known, and we'll be talking about that a little later too. So that's the update, and that's my take on it. And hey, I think it was fun while it lasted. Party's over in Delphi. Party's over in Delphi. No matter the outcome of this appeal, let's be honest here. No matter the outcome of this appeal, party's over in Delphi. The whole world now sees what you did. They see that you railroaded Richard Allen with a biased judge, a corrupt prosecutor, corrupt law enforcement, dirty cops, right? Manipulated witnesses. It's obvious. You did it in front of the world, even though you tried to hide under a cloud of darkness to do so. So, what can I say? The truth is out. There's no putting that cat in the bag, okay? Anyhow, we're going to pick up where we left off in the previous show, and we'll continue obviously tomorrow in the next episode with the continuation of this. But where we left off last episode, we were getting into the section where we're supposed to be talking about the trial court committing reversible error by excluding Richard Allen's evidence explaining the murders of Abby and Libby as a ritual killing. This says the trial court prohibited Allen from explaining the murder scene as a ritual killing. And for those of you who are new here, let's just stop right here and explain a little more. We are not claiming that this was absolutely 1,000% certainly a ritual killing solely. But we are claiming that there was plenty of evidence of a ritualistic nature to this killing and connections into individuals practicing certain ritualistic practices that was hidden from the defense. When it was revealed, the judge ensured, remember, this section 3 here is all about the judge's erroneous decisions. She ensured that no one would, not a single POI and not a single word about this ritual killing aspect or the sigils at the crime scene, which some call runes. They may be runes, who knows? The ritualistic staging of the bodies, the location, the dates, all of this. She made absolutely sure that not a single juror heard the word Keegan Klein, Ron Logan, ritual, Odinist, human sacrifice, nothing like that. She ensured that fact. And this is going to address that issue. Evidence which tends to show that someone else committed the crime logically makes it less probable that the defendant committed the crime. And thus, this meets the definition of relevance. Here, Richard Allen tendered Dawn Perlmutter, Dr. Dawn Perlmutter, a lovely lady who I've spoken with myself. Absolutely phenomenal woman with a big heart and a bigger brain. Dr. Dawn Perlmutter, a recognized expert in ritualistic killings and atypical homicides, to explain the elements of ritualistic killings. Ritual killings commonly occur outdoors in wooded areas and or near bodies of water. They occur on holidays significant to the ritual group, often involve the use of ceremonial knives. There will be symbolism left at the scene, and with Norse pagan rituals, the symbolism will likely involve runes, arranging natural objects in a specific way, and perhaps combining the runes with blood. This is called blooding the runes. You don't get bullet wounds in ritual murders. Rather, there's usually throat slitting, blood loss, blood draining, perhaps torture, all of which we see signs of in the murders of Abby and Libby, by the way. You would expect the sacrifice to be displayed or arranged at the scene in a manner that is significant to the group, or as I say, a tableau, right? What you find in the crime scene of Libby and Abby is a ritualistic tableau. They are laid out, arranged as tarot figurations. One appears to be the magician, the other appears to be the hanged man, okay? Which is a nexus to Odinism as well, because we know that Odin is in some ways the hanged man, okay? And Liberty is the magician. Statue of Liberty is in the same configuration as the magician. This is a tableau or a specific sacrificial arrangement or displayment left at the crime scene in a manner that is significant to the group. And finally, you would expect to see an atypical or symbolic blood pattern at a ritualistic killing, similar to what we see on the tree that is clearly, absolutely, definitively drawn with a human finger at a right angle. And of course, our lying ass cops and prosecutor took to the court, and in front of the court, they tried to convince the jury in the world that this was merely a smudge of a hand as a dying victim tried to steady herself. According to Perlmutter, this murder scene included all of these elements, not one, not two, but all of these elements. The murders occurred outdoor in a creek, outdoors in a clearing near a creek. The murders coincided with the Nordic holiday Valisblot, which honors Odin's son. The girls' throats were cut with a knife, and they bled extensively. There's also questions about missing blood. Okay, where is Abby's blood? Perlmutter found the sticks to be obvious symbolism. Remember, so did Dr. Purdy. And difficult to explain in any other way. In her opinion, the stick arrangements on Abigail Williams mirrored the Norse rune Gabo, and the stick formation on Liberty German looked like a Nordic bind rune, which is why we say there are runes at the scene. Perlmutter also explained that the bodies were arranged in a manner consistent with a pagan ritual. An upside-down hanging body is an important element of Norse paganism because Odin hung from a tree for 9 days before discovering runes. And Odin's leg is often displayed with one leg bent behind the other leg, exactly as Abigail Williams was. Here, the blood pattern on the girls' faces suggested a person lifted their bodies and articulated their torsos and necks above their chins, meaning At some point, both girls were upside down. Abby's leg was bent behind the other, mirroring the classic image of Odin and the hanged man, as I would say, and the blood pattern on the tree appears to look like a Norse pagan Fehu rune. But even if it's not, even if it's an upside down L or any other type of shape, what's undeniable is that there is or are right angles on that figuration, which are absolutely impossible to do with a human hand steadying itself on a tree. Perlmutter had the knowledge, skill, and experience to offer this testimony. Expert testimony should be admitted if 1, the expert is qualified by knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education, and 2, the testimony will help the trier of fact to understand the evidence or determine a fact in issue. Perlmutter is an expert in ritualistic killings and a recognized federal subject matter expert on atypical homicide and ritualistic crime investigation. She is the author of Ritualistic Crime Scene Investigation, a field guide for law enforcement officers investigating ritually motivated crimes.
Bruh.
She teaches about ideological and ritualistic killings and is familiar with the practice of Norse paganism or Odinism. She was extremely highly qualified to offer her testimony. Furthermore, Dr. Perlmutter's testimony was not conjecture. There was always a discussion among law enforcement officers that this may be a ritual murder and that the sticks were Nordic runes. The BAU declined to exclude pagan ritual as a plausible explanation for the murder scene. A consulting professor found it quite plausible that the stick markings constitute an instruction inspired by Norse runes or modern recreations thereof. And an undercover law enforcement officer familiar with runes also found pagan symbolism at the scene. Perlmutter's testimony would be helpful to the jury. It would have been. Although motive is not an element of murder, juries want an explanation for the crime. And when the motive is unclear or inconsistent with the defendant's guilt, juries are more likely to acquit. Similarly, when a murder scene is complex or unusual, it is important that the jury receive an explanation for the complex, unusual murder scene. Here, the murder scene was complex and unusual. Just look at the crime scene photos and you'll see for yourself. Come on, world, wake up. It's time to wake up. The jury would want an explanation for this crime scene. Naturally, the sticks immediately stand out to any rational person as highly unusual and warranting an explanation. Perlmutter's testimony provides a very clear explanation or an answer, explains the scene, and offers a motive. Her testimony would be helpful to a jury. Excluding Dr. Perlmutter violated the Constitution. A defendant is entitled to answer the prosecution's case with his own version of the facts. And you wonder why the world is so angry at what happened here in this trial against Richard Allen in the Delphi murders case? So the jury could decide where the truth lies. And a judge cannot infringe upon this right through the arbitrary, disproportionate, and mechanistic application of the rules of evidence, or in other words, bias. Accordingly, if the state offers an inculpatory explanation for the evidence, trial courts cannot use the rules of evidence to prohibit the defendant from offering an exculpatory explanation. By excluding Perlmutter's testimony, the trial court allowed the state to offer an inculpatory explanation for the murder scene and denied Allen his constitutional right to offer an exculpatory explanation. This arbitrary and disproportionately denied Allen his constitutional right to present a defense.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
The error was not harmless. The state told the jury repeatedly that this case was about a brutal murder, and it explained the evidence in a manner that only incriminated Allen. The jury received an absolutely one-sided explanation for the crime, without Allen being able to counter it at all. He was not afforded the opportunity to present a defense. This error affected Allen's substantial rights and the jury's decision. Point number 2. The trial court denied Allen his right to show the state's investigation was incomplete at best, overlooked plausible leads, possibly intentionally, and mishandled evidence relating to third-party guilt. I would put in parentheses, to help protect those third parties and cover this murder up.
Bruh.
A defendant is entitled to have his case proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and the accused can create doubt by showing that the investigation was incomplete. The investigation overlooked plausible leads to the real people who did this, and or that law enforcement mishandled, bungled, destroyed, and fucked up evidence relating to a third party's or third parties' guilt. Here, Allen presented evidence that the state performed an incomplete investigation, mishandled evidence, and destroyed evidence, and overlooked plausible third-party leads, particularly those connected to pagan rituals, or I was going to say ritual murders.
Bruh.
After examining the scene, several officers believed it was too complex for just one person to be involved. Carroll County Sheriff immediately thought the sticks related to pagan rituals. As a matter of fact, the day the girls went missing, law enforcement learned that Abigail Williams was having a secret relationship with Logan Holder, the son of Brad Holder. That week, law enforcement interviewed Holder and his friend Patrick Westfall. Did they just say that week the girls went missing? Yeah, by the way, that just happens to be the week that they lost everything in this case. Sure, it's just a coincidence. Holder reported being involved in a pagan tribe and spending every weekend in Delphi, engaging in pagan rituals with Westfall and 5 or 6 others, including women. Oh my God. Oh, who was the woman who confessed to her mother that she stabbed Abby in the side of the neck to see what it would feel like? Yeah, like that never happened. 5 or 6 others. So what does that put us up to? About 6 or 7 or 8 individuals? Yeah, I thought so. These rituals involved animal sacrifice and human bloodletting. Holder told police he owned a .40 caliber fucking handgun, but officers did not examine or even collect the weapon, nor did they search his phone at all whatsoever, even though he was a POI. That's right. Holder told police he was at work at Liberty Landfill when the girls went missing. Of course, law enforcement recorded conveniently over Holder's interview, permanently deleting it.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
In his interview, Westfall told law enforcement he knew the woods where the girls were murdered very well.
Bruh.
He reported knowing the girls, but denied ever meeting. I never met them. I never met those girls. Kind of same thing Brad Holder did, right? Oh, he also reported being a religious leader for local pagans and that he wore a necklace to the interview representing his efforts to pledge the Vinlanders, a pagan social club. Law enforcement neglected to recall. And by the way, calling the Vinlanders a pagan social club, it's kind, don't you think? It's kind of deceptive, don't you think? What are the Vinlanders actually? I mean, go do some reading on the internet and you'll see exactly what the Vinlanders are. And honey, they ain't a pagan social club. You understand what I'm saying? Law enforcement neglected to record Westfall's interview. Of course they did. And when asked for an alibi, Westfall claimed, "Oh, I was at my home with my son." In the 5.5 years between Westfall's interview and Allen's arrest, law enforcement took zero further action. After Holder's interview, tipsters repeatedly called him in, reported him as a person of interest, claiming he posted pictures of half-dead women with symbols out of tree branches. On April 13th, convenient date, right? 13th of 2017, officers visited Liberty Landfill to investigate and spoke with an employee, Susan Case, who provided a printout showing Holder swiped out of work at 2:45 p.m., which was 30 minutes after the Bridge Guy video. Case invited the officers to review video to confirm the printout's accuracy, but they declined.
Bruh.
Nor did they interview any other employees. Unified Command marked Holder as a cleared suspect based on this. In April 12, 2017, shortly before taking medical leave, Trooper Winters received a phone call from a tipster, Ryan Boucher, who shared pictures from Holder's social media. Winters found a concerning similarity between the murders and pictures posted on Holder's social media. Those pictures depicted young girls believed to be deceased with sticks placed over their bodies, almost identical to the crime scene. Winters also noted the similarity between the stick formation on Abigail Williams and a bind rune on Holder's hand that he drew on his hand. That's right. That's a bind rune on my hand. Basically, I took a Gabo rune and a Nisa rune and I made a bind rune. Holder's social media also featured him holding guns and homemade knives. Winters immediately recommended to his superiors that law enforcement investigate Holder further, which they declined to do, claiming his alibi was cleared.
Bruh.
Holder displayed a painting he made of Odin upside down with his right leg tucked behind his left, just like Abby's legs. Holder's painting also, coincidentally, featured a Fehu rune. Winters was not satisfied and urged the Indiana State Police to conduct its own investigation. In September 2022, the state charged Richard Matthew Allen. At Allen's insistence, law enforcement re-examined Holder. And Holder's story about Abigail began to change. Back in 2017, he told law enforcement he never actually met Abigail. But in August 2023, he told law enforcement he met Abby, I think once. And during a deposition in 2024, he said he met Abby Williams 2 times, twice. At least one of those encounters occurred shortly before Abby's murder and occurred at Westfall's home. On April 4th, 2024, Allen's counsel deposed Case, the Liberty Landfill HR officer, and found the following: that Holder did not have exclusive control of his employee badge on the day that the girls went missing. Bruh. Allen also uncovered evidence that impeached the course of the investigation even further. In 2018, Holder told his wife he had a fight with Westfall because Westfall wanted to up from animal sacrifice to a different type of sacrifice. What do we think that means? Let's see. I'm killing and sacrificing animals and draining their blood and doing bloodletting. Okay, animal sacrifice. Hey, I want to up I want to up from animal sacrifice. What do you think that means? What else you got to sacrifice that's not an animal?
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
Holder then told his wife that Westfall killed Abby Williams with others and that she needed to keep her fucking mouth shut about it. The evidence shows a shoddy, incomplete, and totally mishandled investigation into this murder as a ritual killing and raises reasonable doubt that Holder and Westfall were responsible for the murders, among others. Allen was entitled to present this evidence to the jury, and the judge committed absolutely reversible error by excluding it. The error violated the Constitution and affected the jury's decision. The Constitution entitles a defendant to attack only the probative value of crucial physical evidence and the circumstances in which it was found, but the thoroughness and even good faith of the investigators as well. Again, the Constitution entitles a defendant to attack not only the physical evidence, but the thoroughness and even, look at that word, even the good faith of the investigation as well. Here, the omitted evidence created reasonable doubt and raised questions of the utmost importance about the murder, about the manner, quality, and thoroughness of the investigation that led to Allen's eventual arrest 5.5 years later after the murders when they decided to frame him. Had the jury heard this evidence, a different result would have been very likely. And here the state responded in the following manner to this information. Perlmutter's testimony that the murders were ritualistic. The trial court properly excluded Perlmutter's testimony, opining that this was a ritual killing. Hello. She wasn't opining, okay? She was giving a forensic evaluation as an FBI instructor in ritual killings and a law enforcement manual writer in ritualistic killings who is tapped by law enforcement all over the nation to give her very valid forensic opinions on ritualistic appearing homicides.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
Expert opinion testimony is admissible only when it will help the trier of fact. Okay? This permits, Evidence Rule 702 permits the exclusion of evidence that will confuse the issues or mislead the jury. Mislead the jury with the truth, right?
Bruh.
Third-party motive evidence must establish more than a speculative connection to the crime to be admissible. Perlmutter's opinion that this was a ritual killing, an opinion she reached before seeing even any evidence in the case, was too speculative to be admissible as third-party motive evidence.
I'm legally blind.
Excuse me. Are we going to pretend here, state of Indiana, that Dr. Dawn Perlmutter is the only individual who thought that this had ritualistic overtones, appeared to be non-secular, appeared to have runes, appeared to have marks, satanic symbols? Let's put it this way. What did Dr. Purdy actually say? Yeah, it definitely looked like somebody's attempt to make bind runes, right? That's what he actually said. Yeah, oh yeah. And what did Tobe say? Yeah, we were considering that this was a bunch of people, and it was a viable opinion or option, theory that this was a ritualistic killing. Oh yeah, and what did Robert Ives say, "Oh yeah, this there was full of symbolism, the type of things, the evidence you would think that the person would be immediately found, even in 1970s or 60s or whatever. Oh yeah, and he said there's non-secular signatures all over the crime scene. Yeah, and what did some community members who called me, but right when Rick was arrested, say, oh yeah, Prof, there were satanic symbols all over the bodies and the crime scene, and the girls were posed. Yeah, yeah, all of that shit that for years everyone has known all of this about the crime. All of a sudden, oh, did I forget the Ferenczi, Click, and Murphy report? Okay, that Todd Click was so bothered by all this that he reached out to the lawyers and the prosecutor, and the defense lawyers, and Todd Click's like, whoa, 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 with the Richard Allen, whoa, whoa, whoa. We investigated this, and we got a lot of shit, man. The shit you're saying about Richard Allen don't make no sense, but we got a lot of shit, and we investigated this shit. You should check this shit out, right? But it's but we're supposed to believe it's just Perlmutter's willy-nilly opinion without seeing the evidence, when everyone can see that crime scene for yourselves. Let me ask you this: look at the crime scene for yourself, and you tell me whether it's spooky or not. You tell me whether it has ritualistic overtones or not, satanic, Wiccan, witchy poo, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And they keep gaslighting. And then they throw this one in. There is no history of ritual human sacrifice in Odinism. Oh, well, then why did Pat Westfall want to move on from animal sacrifice and move on up to humans? I mean, can someone tell me that?
Bruh.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
And then they start actually shilling for the Odinists. That's right. Oh, this can't be Odinism, but they're pretty decent people. Remember what Jerry Holman said about the Odinists? Oh, they're pretty Christian, God-fearing people. Yeah. Odinists, they're awesome. As far as I can tell, it's just a club where awesome people get together. That's Jerry Holman, right? But as an Odinist, the sacrifice of children would be contrary to the principles of the religion. Yeah, we love the Odins here in good old Carroll County. Yeah, boy, good old boy, Carroll County. We love them Odinists there. Even Perlmutter acknowledged that apart from this case, she had knowledge of only one other Odinist ritual killing, and that case remained an open investigation. Wait. Didn't you just say Odinists don't kill humans? Let's look at the bottom. Odinists don't kill humans. Last line. What is this? What is this line says? She's only seen or have knowledge of one other Odinist ritual killing. Oh my God. Wait up. Did you just contradict yourself? So you said Odins don't kill people. Then you say Dr. Perlmutter testified she only had knowledge of one Odin killing. Yeah, making a lot of sense, guys. Making a lot of sense. Making a lot of effing sense right now. Perlmutter also acknowledged that outdoor killings committed with a knife are not necessarily ritual killings. Yeah, I would say if you're in the hood, let's say you get into some shit with a crack dealer and you're a crackhead and you pull out a shank and the crack dealer pulls out the shank and just shanks your ass down in the middle of the street because you're about to shank him. Yeah, I would say that would probably have nothing to do with a ritual. Fucking course, you're stating the obvious, dumbass. There was no F in blood on the tree. That was a misapprehension caused by the reddish tints in the tree bark. Oh, really? A misapprehension? Sure did look like that was a upside down F or upside down L or something like that. Okay? Which means it wasn't accidentally placed by Libby steadying herself with her bloody hand on that tree. Something ain't making sense in your argument here. There was no F on the tree. That was a misapprehension. When a chemical was applied, it wasn't necessarily an F. It formed an upside down L. Neither Perlmutter nor Allen have ever contended that an upside down L is a rune or a note in a symbol. No. What if it means Liberty's dead? Okay, let's say it's an upside down L. That could also have a meaning to the killer who put the L on the tree. Let somebody says, what if the killer says, "Oh, I just killed liberty, and this is a sacrifice for liberty. I'm just going to turn liberty upside down. I'm going to could turn the L upside down and draw it on the tree because it will show that she's been turned upside down or something." Again, argue something that's relevant. The sticks, I'm sorry, the blood patterns on the bodies and on the ground were inconsistent with bodies having been hung upside down. Yeah, no one says they were hung upside down at that particular spot at that particular time. But you know what a lot of people say? Their blood was drained, right? Their blood was drained and put in a vessel, and some was poured in a puddle a little ways away, and some is missing. That's what people say. No one says they were hung upside down right at the crime scene and the blood would have dripped down exactly under where they were hung upside down. No, we're saying they were hung upside down somewhere else, or their blood was drained somewhere else, and then their bodies were moved and staged to the place they were found, and then some blood was poured out. That's what is being said. The sticks on the bodies were fundamentally ambiguous. Really? Oh, really? Are you going to say that they weren't placed there with human hands, with intent, and with some sort of symbolic meaning? Because all anyone has to do is go look at those crime scene photos, and they're going to see for themselves that those sticks are absolutely geometrically arranged with right angles that demand that they were placed there with intent, with human hands, expressing some sort of symbolism or meaning. Professor Turco found it equally plausible that they were not attempted runes at all, and they could only offer conjecture as to their meaning. If it was assumed, arguendo, that they had were intended to be runes, as the arrangement of sticks did not in any obvious way spell a rune. As seen in the crime scene photographs, the sticks were much less suggestive of runes than in the police sketch he was initially shown. No, they were runes. They were clearly runic, or they were sigils. Okay, they were either bind runes or they were sigils. No other choice. Come on, listen. Look at me. I'm the prof. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Look at me. You. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm the prof. And I'm telling you, there's no other explanation. There are no other options. There are no other choices. Two choices. They are either bind runes, which means runic, or they are sigils, which means satanic or witchcraft. Period. Okay, moving on. As seen in the crime scene photographs, the sticks were much less suggestive. With respect to the sticks on Liberty German, even Perlmutter could say only that she believed they had specific meaning to the offender. That's the fucking point. Oh my God. These people cannot understand normal human logic. That is the point. They had meaning to the person who left him there. They left him there to convey some sort of meaning. That means it's not accidental, and it's not there to hide a body. She could not identify any rune or symbol they purportedly formed. The FBI's behavioral analysis unit was unable to verify or find support for the theory that this was an Odinist killing, determining that neither the blood on the tree nor the sticks' bodies clearly depict, capture, or present any known aspects of Odinism or its symbology. That's because you were fucking idiots. Why are you so adherent to Odinist? That is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Let's see. How many different types of sects of Christianity are there in the world? Could you say, I don't know, 5,000 at a minimum? Who's to say that this Norse paganism doesn't have 5,000 different variations or variants of or colors depending on the state, the region of the state, the individuals behind it, the meaning of the shit to them, their own inner symbology, and who chose which rune and which made which bind rune and all these combinations. It doesn't mean it has to be provable, definitive, traditional Odin symbolism. It's absolutely insane that what they're trying to present here. Particularly in the absence of any evidence placing any Odinist at the crime scene. Or okay. Oh, and I want to point out, look at the exact bottom of the page. Look at last line on the page, 79 of the state's filing. Look at the bottom of the page. Holder was definitively cleared as a suspect. They made sure to get that one in, right? Holder was definitively cleared as a suspect.
Bruh.
All right. Evidence of 2 third-party suspects. The trial court properly excluded Allen's proffered alternative suspect evidence pertaining to Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall. Allen was permitted to present evidence challenging the quality of the police investigation and their long-term suspicion that more than one individual had been involved in the crime. But the court excluded his specific third-party suspect evidence because Allen failed to establish any nexus between those 2 individuals and the crimes. Hey, I got your nexus. It's the Dropbox. It's Keegan Kline and Ron Logan. And Ron Logan is the nexus to Nick McClellan and Kathy Shank and Tony and Keegan Kline. Right? That's your nexus, dumbass. Your nexus was clearly described by Reese Davis. Reese Davis, the one who matters. Boop, 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 boop. Bruh. I'm legally blind. Evidence which tends to show that someone else committed the crime logically makes it less probable that the defendant committed the crime. You don't say. Wow, look at this. And thus meets the definition of relevance. Relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is outweighed by unfair prejudice, confusion of the issue, or its potential to mislead the jury, or failure to satisfy any other evidence rule. Okay. The police investigated Holder and West. The police. Who is the police, by the way? Who's the police? The police. Which police? Which police? Sheriffs? State police? Local police? FBI? The police investigated Holder and Westfall. Never found any evidence connecting them or any other alleged Odinist conspirator to the murders or placing them at the High Bridge on the trail that afternoon. Yeah, but it seems like Ferenczi, Click, and Murphy, which includes Ferenczi, who was FBI, seems like they established some evidence, right? What are you lying to the appellate judges here, the judicial panel? The police investigated Holder and Westfall and never found any evidence. Todd Click, Kevin Murphy, Gregory Ferenczi. Holder had a confirmed alibi that made it impossible. Wait, didn't we just read that Holder's alibi was not confirmed? That someone else had access to his clock-in card or swipe-in card? Wow. Okay. Holder worked at a landfill in Buffalo, Indiana. His work records confirmed that he was at work on February 14th. On February 13th from 4:55 a.m. to 2:45. And his gym record showed that he checked in there at 4:08 p.m. Yeah, so So what? Buffalo is located 25 miles from Delphi. It takes 30 to 35 minutes to drive. Okay, let's say 30. Let's say he's working 30 minutes from Delphi. So Brad Holder's working 30 minutes from Delphi. Someone else has access to his clock in card, his sign out card, and all this swipe card. He's only 30 minutes away. That's called a confirmed alibi. That's called cleared. It's not possible for him to be absent while his time card showed he was president. Really? Really? Didn't you just say, didn't we just read that he was not in full control of his time card the entire time? Which means it is possible for him to be absent while his time card shows he's at work. Okay. Without Holder, the theorized connection to Westfall necessarily fails. No, it doesn't. No one needs Holder to be involved in this for Westfall or anyone else. None of this is mutually exclusive or inclusive. Like, no one. You don't have to have Keegan Kline there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Ron Logan there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Brad Holder there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Mike Patty there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Kelsey German there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Patrick Westphal for everybody else to be involved. You don't have to have Eric Williams there for everyone else to be involved. You don't have to have Adam Bridge there or anybody fucking else. You don't have to have any one person there for others to be involved. So what the fuck is this? Without Holder, the theorized connection to Westfall necessarily fails. All right. The speculative and inaccurate reading of the crime scene, because we're the experts. Good old Carroll County Sheriff's Department, we're the experts down here, boy. I'm going to tell you how things go around here. I'm going to tell you how things go around here, boy. Insert N-word. Okay. Speculative theorizing, lacking any admissible evidence directly connecting either man to the crime, does not rise to the level of admissible third-party evidence. It's not how it works. They weren't trying to prove a trial. See, that's where it's fucked up. Are they trying to convict Westfall or Holder of murder in the court of law where they actually need evidence that it's admitted? No, we're just trying to establish a motive or a nexus, a potential to offer an alternative explanation of the crime scene. So this is bullshit too. Any of the alleged errors given to power independent evidence of guilt. Powerful independent evidence of guilt. That's the second time we've read this within like 20 pages. Powerful independent evidence of guilt. What evidence? The timeline and eyewitness evidence, including Allen's initial statements to police, creates an overwhelming certainty that Allen was Bridge Guy, and thus the murders. There's a syllogism right there. So, Bridge Guy killed the girls. Richard Allen is Bridge Guy. Therefore, Richard Allen killed the girls. I'm going to skip over some of this. That's bullshit. You know, they talk about Dark Carhart, which, yeah, he bought 2 or 3 years later. Wilbur and Voorhees, both who were coerced, okay, who they were coerced or bullied or pressured, immediately recognized the picture of Bridge Guy as the man who had walked past them. Yeah, they were pressured. Betsy Blair's immediately recognized Bridge Guy. There's a Bridge Guy, muddy, bloody, timeline, certainty, reasonable conclusion, forensically matched. He did not have the cell phone with him that he had on that day. Oh, and then they go, Alan confessed. You know, they leave the part out that he was locked in solitary for damn near like half a fucking year, uh, was extremely uh, psychotic and being force medicated with antipsychotics on top of his Prozac and all this other shit, and being threatened with death, with beating, with harm to his family members. Yeah, they leave all that shit out, right? Alan confessed. Okay, and now we're going to jump on back because we're done with that bullshit. Now we're going to go back to the state's. I'm sorry, the appellate attorneys for Richard Allen's reply to that foregoing information. It says a trial court committed reversible error when it excluded Perlmutter's exculpatory explanation of Bridge Guy's murder scene. Okay, so here is where the appellate attorneys are going to respond to that big bag of bullshit you just heard from the state. Okay, all of that gaslighting, bullying, logical fallacy, just bullshit that we just had to be forced to read through. Here's a reply from the appellate attorneys. Dr. Don Perlmutter holds a federal subject matter expert. Listen to this. Dr. Perlmutter holds a federal subject matter expert designation from the United States government in ritualistic crime and has consulted with the FBI, DEA, and Department of Homeland Security. Bruh. Again, for the ones in the back, especially the ones who likes to wear diapers, you know who I'm talking about, Chomo. Dr. Perlmutter holds a federal subject matter expert designation from the U.S. government in ritualistic crimes. She has consulted with the FBI, DEA, and Department of Homeland Security. She has worked dozens of ritualistic homicide cases and hundreds of ritualistic crimes for law enforcement. These cases where she's worked trials has primarily been for the prosecution. The foundation for Dr. Perlmutter's testimony was not speculative. It was the state's own damn investigation.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
The case the state relies upon, or the cases and their progeny, share a common premise that the defendant approaching the court with an alternative theory the prosecution never considered, supported only by the defendant's own speculation, wild, willy-nilly speculation. However, the ritualistic killing theory of Dr. Perlmutter and the defense was not Richard Allen or his attorney's invention. It was law enforcement's own theory, developed from the first day at the scene, pursued for years, and supported by multiple independent sources. The foundation for Perlmutter's testimony is not a defense attorney's fantastical theory. It's 5 years of law enforcement investigation, FBI consultation, and academic analysis, all pointing in the same direction. What changed was not the evidence. What changed was the arrest. When Allen was charged, the state abandoned the ritualistic homicide multiple perpetrator theory, reversed its position on Betsy Blair and Sarah Carball on their sketches, recharacterized this investigation as complete, and moved to exclude all of the evidence it had spent 5 years developing. Right? That reversal is not neutral evidentiary decision. It is a confirmation bias that's made visible. Law enforcement finding a more convenient suspect and retrofitting the evidence to fit him, discarding what pointed elsewhere.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
Remember, I've said to you a million times, everything that was deleted, 70 days deleted, marathon footage deleted, uh, the recording of Richard Allen's interaction with Doolin deleted, the Monica Wallace notes deleted, everything deleted. It was done so for this reason, right? Discarding what pointed elsewhere. Anything pointing to the actual perpetrators was destroyed, deleted, disappeared, lost, bungled. Yeah. All right. The asymmetry doctrine required Perlmutter's admission, and the state fails to engage with it. The state, sorry about that. The state called expert witnesses to interpret the crime scene's unusual features in an inculpatory direction. Allen was denied an expert to interpret the same exact features in an exculpatory direction. Indiana law has long held that the state may not use evidentiary rules as both a sword and a shield, presenting its versions of contested evidence to the jury while blocking the defense from offering a contrary explanation for the same facts. The murder scene demanded an explanation that the state's theory could not fucking provide. The sticks were deliberately arranged on both girls' bodies in configurations that covered no more than 3% of their bodies. Far too little to conceal anything, serving no practical purpose a brutal, opportunistic murder would require. Libby's 200-pound body was dragged several yards after her death and positioned in a V formation. The girls were treated differently from each other in ways that suggest intentionality rather than impulse. The scene taken as a whole reflected a very extreme purposefulness, a deliberate, almost ceremonial quality, a tableau that the state has never explained. Still to this day, Nicholas McClellan cannot fucking explain that crime scene. That's why they hid the crime scene photos from you. That's why they hid them. That's why they tried to scrub the internet of that stuff, because they do not want you to see for yourself how that crime scene was left. The state never explained this ceremonial quality to the crime scene, and that sits uneasily beside the theory of a middle-aged pharmacy tech with no connection to the victims, no motive, no history of violence, committing a spontaneous public murder before walking home. Why in the fuck would Richard Allen do that? Go look at the crime scene photos. You tell me why Richard Allen would do that. The state argues that Perlmutter's evidence was irrelevant because motive was not a significant factor in the proof of guilt. Allen never claimed that fucking motive was important to the state's case, but motive was critical to Allen's claim of innocence because the scene suggests a motive completely inconsistent with Allen's guilt. A court cannot prohibit a defendant from offering evidence of an alternative motive because the state has failed to present evidence of the defendant's motive. Although the state can open the door to otherwise irrelevant evidence, it cannot close the door to otherwise relevant evidence. Any challenges to the weight of Perlmutter's testimony are arguments for cross-examination, not grounds for total exclusion. And finally, the trial court's denial of Allen his right to show the state's investigation into Bridge Guy's identity was incomplete, overlooked plausible leads, and mishandled evidence. The state claims Allen failed to establish a nexus between the third-party evidence and the crime. The record refutes that claim across 5 independent connections. This is where you get your pencils out to take notes, guys. You guys take your pencils out. Write some notes. You want to know what the nexus is? They're going to tell you now. So get your pencils out, write a little bullet point, and you're going to have 5 of these. Part 1. Nexus to the victim. Abigail Williams was secretly meeting with Logan Holder, the son of Brad Holder. The leader of a pagan group conducting rituals in Delphi every fucking weekend. That's a direct personal connection between a named suspect and one of the murdered girls, established through law enforcement's own investigation, not the defense's speculation. Again, this is all coming from law enforcement's own investigation. That connection became more significant, not less, as Holder's account of his relationship with Abby Williams evolved, quote unquote, meaning the stories changed, 3 times over 7 years. Nexus to the crime scene. Crime scene. Holder had a bind rune tattoo that was nearly identical. It was drawn in ink, I believe, but identical on Holder's hand, identical to the stick arrangement on Abby's body. Before those details were public, Holder was posting pictures depicting dead girls with sticks placed over their bodies. Westfall told law enforcement he knew the woods near the murder scene very well. That's your connection to the scene. Nexus to the murder weapons caliber. Holder owned a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, the same caliber cartridge as the one found between the bodies. Law enforcement never collected or even tested it. The state's firearm case rests on the proposition that only Allen's gun could have produced the scene cartridge, a proposition meaningfully undermined by the existence of a fucking .40 caliber uncollected firearm of the same make and model that the forensics team for the Indiana State Police thought was probable. Remember, the forensics team at Indiana State Police thought that we were looking at either a Smith and Wesson or a Sig Sauer .40 caliber. Again, a Smith and Wesson or a Sig Sauer. What .40 caliber did Brad Holder own? Smith and Wesson. We also know that Keegan Kline had a .40 caliber. Ron Logan had a .40 caliber handgun. Brad Weber had a .40 caliber handgun. You want to know how many .40 calibers handguns nexus to that scene? Let me give you the list. Ron Logan, Brad Weber, Keegan Kline, Brad Holder, and about probably 20% of the cops out there searching for the bodies that day. Yeah. Nexus through law enforcement's own conclusions. Did I just say that? Yes, I sure did. Nexus through law enforcement's own conclusions. The Carroll County Sheriff connected the sticks to pagan rituals immediately. 2017. Multiple officers concluded the scene was too complex for one person. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit declined to exclude ritual killing. A Purdue professor that Holman tried and McClellan tried to hide from the defense, by the way, concluded the stick markings left on the bodies were consistent with Norse runic symbolism. These are the state's own pre-arrest conclusions before they even knew about Richard Allen. A nexus that law enforcement itself found compelling enough to pursue cannot be dismissed by the judge as insufficient when the defendant adopts it. Nexus through Holder's own admission. In 2018, that's right, 1 year after the murder, 2018, Holder told his wife that Patrick killed Abigail Williams with others. Who are the others? And warned that if I talk, that they would kill me. The statement is admissible as circumstantial evidence of Holder's own consciousness of guilt. A person without guilty knowledge has no reason to threaten his wife into silence about a crime he sincerely believes someone else committed. And the statement itself is a joiner nexus evidence. A named alternative suspect, Brad Holder, identifying another named alternative suspect, Patrick Westfall, as the killer makes it less probable that Allen committed the crime. Joiner nexus. The state's nexus argument effectively requires forensic placement at the scene, DNA or physical evidence directly linking Holder or Westfall to the murder scene. That is not the Joiner standard. Joiner standard required reversal Joiner required reversal based on motive, opportunity, conduct, and a forensic hair match. Allen's evidence, victim connection, crime scene imagery, same caliber firearm, directly familiar with the murder location, law enforcement's own pre-arrest conclusions, and Holder's post hoc admission is stronger multi-factor package than what Joiner found sufficient. The state's claim that police investigated and never connected Holder and Westfall to the crime is not a response to Allen's argument. It's a restatement of the problem. The right to challenge the investigation's thoroughness would be meaningless if the investigation's own conclusions could insulate it from challenge. Bruh.
Bruh.
I'm legally blind. We investigated ourselves. We're fine. Trust me. We're fine, bro. Trust me, bro. The right to challenge the investigations, cleared in this investigation did not mean investigators looked and found nothing. It meant they accepted an unverified badge swipe without watching the fucking surveillance video. It means they never tested Holder's .40 caliber against the scene cartridge. It also means they never examined Holder's phone at all. They never allowed Westfall to delete. They did allow Westfall to delete his phone data before turning it over and didn't think that was suspicious. As a matter of fact, Jerry Holman made an excuse for Patrick Westfall giving him a goddamn wiped phone when they asked for his phone. Oh, yeah, no, people delete stuff all the time. Anybody else got a donut? They ignored Trooper Winter's recommendations that Holder be re-interviewed after finding his social media post depicting young girls believed to be deceased with sticks placed over their bodies, very similar to Abby's and Libby's. It took 6 years to examine Westfall's alibi, only to find he was home with his son and his son says so. Could not be confirmed, meaning Westfall has no alibi. A jury that understands those facts would have evaluated the state's cleared conclusions very differently. That is precisely why the evidence should have been admitted and precisely why its exclusion was not harmless. The state conflates alibi accepted with alibi confirmed. Ooh, that's heavy. That's heavy. Those are not the same thing. And the record makes the difference plain. The badge swipe occurred outside of Holder's usual shift schedule. The badge was on a public fucking rack accessible to any other coworker with no way to detect whether Holder swiped the badge or someone else swiped it. Police didn't want to see the video, and it's likely deleted by now. As a matter of fact, the HR officer at the landfill said this directly. Westfall's alibi, accepted for 6 fucking years without examination, could not be confirmed when it was finally tested. These are not the hallmarks of a confirmed alibi either. These are the hallmarks of a flawed investigation at best. Malfeasance at worst. Joyner did not require the defense to disprove a third party's alibi before the evidence became admissible. It required only that the evidence tend to make it less probable that the defendant committed the crime, which would have made a fair trial. The Holder-Westphal ritual killing evidence does that. And the state's mishandled, at best, alibi investigation only serves to make the evidence more probative. I want to get to this last point. Before law enforcement ever even talked to Allen, they jumped to the conclusion that Allen murdered Abigail Williams and Liberty German because he told Detective Doolin in 2022 that he saw 3 girls on the Freedom Bridge or on the Freedom Trail and 4 girls thought they saw Bridge Guy on the trail. Detective Mullen's mind, that means Allen had to be the guy 4 girls saw, and thus Bridge Guy. But Rayleigh Voorhees and her friends alleged Bridge Guy sighting is uncertain. The girls could have been wrong that they saw Bridge Guy. The girls could have been wrong that they saw Bridge Guy. And even if they did see Bridge Guy, it does not follow that Allen has to be that guy.
Bruh.
Regardless, law enforcement's tunnel vision of Allen caused problems. Okay? To get a warrant, they ignored that Blair described someone different than Allen and a car different than his car. They ignored that Blair said Carbaugh saw a different man than the man she saw, and they lied about Allen's admitting he wore a blue Carhartt jacket. They abandoned the obvious theory that more than one person did it. They ignored the oddness of the stick configurations at the crime scene on the bodies of the girls. They can find Allen in the most solitary, restrictive cell in Indiana, where Allen predictably deteriorated. When he predictably deteriorated, the state mocked his attorney's concerns about his health condition while collecting psychosis-induced confessions. At trial, Allen was not permitted to tell his story of the tunnel vision into the wrong man, him. The jury never saw the sketch of Bridge Guy that clearly is not Allen. The jury was not permitted to hear about a ritualistic explanation for the crime scene that even the state had considered and used as their theory in the years prior to Richard Allen's arrest. They could not hear about how the state failed to investigate the paganists with connections to Abby Williams and bloodletting rituals. Nor could they hear that the quote-unquote science upon which the state asked them to find Allen guilty through the bullet at the scene was unreliable and untrustworthy. This is especially troubling when the prosecutor argued the state's firearm analyst had never been wrong. They never got to hear how Allen's tangential, pressured, delusional speech showed his confessions were not reliable. The jury was misled to believe that Allen knew a fact only the killer would know by presenting false evidence that Weber came home at a time that quote-unquote absolutely fell into place when we know it's all a lie now. Allen was not frightened by a van because a van did not pass at that point, at that time. That information was fed to him by Dr. Monica Walla during his states of heightened psychosis and depression. If even one of these things is wrong, the state's entire timeline unravels. But with Allen's hands tied, the state's timeline went from superficial inference stacking to hard facts corroborated by confessions and a firearm match. This is called a railroading. Had the jury known about all the evidence that impeached the timeline, that impeached the firearm science, that impeached the confessions due to his psychosis happening at the time he was confessing, had they known about Keegan Klein's information from Reese Davis, had they known about Ron Logan's information from Reese Davis, had they heard about the confessions of Keegan Klein and the confessions of Ron Logan, had they heard about the investigation of the Odinists into Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields, Brad Holder, and everyone else mentioned in the Franks memorandum and the Murphy, Click, and Ferenczi report, the jury would have come to a different conclusion. They would have acquitted him. The state has failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt any one error, let alone the cumulative weight of all of them, did not contribute to the guilty verdict. So, it is absolutely without a doubt that Richard Allen did not receive a fair trial. It goes without a doubt that there was bias, there was judicial bias. There was not only the appearance of prejudice, but there was exercise from the bench bias. These are the erroneous, egregious decisions of Judge Gull, which are all in totality the subject of the third section of the appeal. And that's what we are covering in the prior episode and tonight's episode. It was all about the decisions made by the judge that were absolutely over the line, that determined the outcome of this case. In other words, the judge was acting as judge, jury, and executioner. Judge Gull sat at her bench using her gavel. She ensured that there was only one decision for the jury, and that was guilty. That's why it's called a railroading. Now, in future episodes, okay, the very next episode, we're going to cover section 2 of the appeal, which is the hardest to hear, which are Richard Allen's false confessions made under a period of psychosis, under being medicated, while being threatened and abused in solitary confinement in maximum security prison as a pretrial detainee. Okay. And as I said, coerced by his mental health provider, his therapist. And then in the final episode, we'll be going through Tony Liggett's search warrant and the fruit of the poisonous tree. And we will learn how this works, where the sheriff lied, omitted, and twisted information in his probable cause affidavit. Making the search of Richard Allen's home illegal. So all of these items stack, and we'll be going through all of them. And for those of you who are new here, I hope you're starting to learn the case and learn what this is about and learn why so many people have questions. There are reasons people have questions. It's not just that we're out here wanting to be something to be upset about. That's the cranks. That's the troll farm. Sober-minded people are not out here just trying to be upset about something. People are out here upset because they've seen all of this. They've been here for 7, 8, 9 years. They have seen this all play out, and they are extremely furious at the result. There's a reason why people are upset. Well, guys, I'm going to try to see if I can move in the second half of the show now. I definitely need something to drink, so I'm gonna go refill something to drink. I really worn my throat out with that sermon there. Uh, I'm gonna go get something to drink. I'm gonna put on the music for 1 minute, maybe. Please don't go anywhere. Talk amongst yourselves in the chat. We'll read a little of the chat in a moment when I get back. And I'm hoping to have some guests. So give me a minute. Let me go get something to drink because my throat's killing me. And I'll be right back. And you guys, please, while I'm doing that, hit the like button. Would you mind? Hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Appreciate it. That'd be super awesome. Let's do it. So let's see. I'm going to get this going right here. Okay, guys, so it is hot as hell. I got to tell you, it is hot as hell. I don't know what's going on with the sun was really cooking tonight, so it's been great. But I think I got myself all heated up. I got myself all in an uproar. Just the sheer frustration and anger at reading through that stuff, especially reading through the states filing. It's like dealing with the most extreme abusive narcissist you've ever dealt with, a bully or an abuser, and it sort of gets my temperature up every single time. I sit there and I read through it, and it's like I'm being gaslit to my face, which is extremely narcissistic crazy making, we call it, and it's unacceptable. And without people out here actually telling the truth about all of this, they would get away with it, which is what they planned for. You know, that was is what was intended. Which is why it's important for all of us to keep talking. But it's crazy. It's crazy. So while I'm waiting for my guests to arrive, I will. Oh, my son is making an exclamation. Hold on. What's wrong, buddy? Being dramatic about something on TV. Okay. Okay, now let's see. I wanted to look at the chat for a second and see anyone in here I missed. Let's see. We got okay, nobody any questions. Everybody's fine. All my regulars in the chat. But hey guys, if you're new here, we got new viewers. Oh, come on and introduce yourself in the chat. Everyone is so nice, wonderful, and friendly here. Just please come on into the chat, say hello to everyone. Everyone will be very gracious with you. And if not, Deb will hit them over the head with a wrench. Promise you. Uh, so it's safe in here. So feel free to come on in. Even debates are welcome as long as you're not abusive, because we can all argue ideas without attacking personalities, can't we? Well, that's what adults should be able to do. But, we know how the internet is, primarily not adults. But yeah, Matt Payton says, never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. You know what? Deb shows the wrench. Yeah, Deb, get him. That's my grandfather used to say. My grandfather used to tell me, he was a very amazing guy. And he'd be like, Prof. Wait, he didn't say prof, obviously. But he'd say, Prof, don't argue with a stupid person, because you get down and argue with the stupid person, they're going to bring you down to their level of stupidity. And I never forgot the nugget of advice: don't talk to stupid people. Another thing he'd always say to me, which I think a lot of us out here need to hear this, so I'm going to say it, primarily the hate watchers. He would always say, or had often said in my presence, don't ever talk down to people. Don't ever assume the ignorance of someone. And so I think both of those things are like two sides of a coin. Don't ever argue with an idiot, but at the same time, don't ever assume the ignorance of someone you're talking to. So it's a tough one. It's a double-edged sword there. Anyhow, we are so excited tonight because of this order granting the oral arguments in the Richard Allen appeal that two of my really good friends, and that is Erica Morris and Christine Salzer, who were both defense investigators working for the defense of Richard Allen. And I must say, since leaving Jensen Investigations, have worked pro bono thousands of hours on this case in the past couple years. I know because every time I call Erica, that's what she's doing. And every time I call Christine, that's what she's doing. And I might also add their best friends as well. So every time I call them, the people in the homes, they're in their homes. It's a constant conversation, and at least I'm over here talking myself. But so you've got a good 5 people you're going to hear from tonight vicariously through Erica, Christine, and myself. And I've said before, and I don't like to brag about it, but I did mention it tonight. I've spoken with Dr. Perlmutter quite a bit. And I've also spoken to Anthony Baldwin and a whole bunch of other people in this case, including Michael Osfuck and the entire Cranks contingent. So I have spoken with many people, Mr. Kopfax, Mr. Steve, just a litany of individuals, some family members, probably have spoken to as many people as Christine and Erica in investigating this case as they have. And so collectively, the perspective you're going to gain tonight is a perspective of at least 100 individuals central to this case, and the most pivotal 50 individuals in this case, and the most pivotal 2 or 3. And I think you know what we mean by that. So I'm going to welcome the ladies in, and it's going to work like this. We're going to have a discussion. If you happen to have a genuine question in the chat, express that question to Miss Deb, um, and say, I have a question, Deb, and then follow that with the question. And if Deb doesn't delete it, I will then consider the question. If it's one of those questions that's abusive, narcissistically gaslighting, or distracting, we will be ignoring your questions. So as long as questions are brought in good faith, Miss Deb will be monitoring those and bringing them to my attention. And we're going to save that towards the second half of the program. But for now, I'm going to welcome the ladies in for a conversation, because I think we'd all like to talk together, kind of like we do on the three-way calls, and talk about where we are right now, and what's gotten us here, and where we hope this brings us. So everybody, please welcome the ladies in, Miss Erica Morris and Christine Salzar. Okay, hello, ladies.
Hey guys.
Hey, everybody.
See if I can hear you. Can all you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you great. I look like I may have a blur here. Hang on a second. There we go. Much better. Much better. Much more clear. Hey, Chrissy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Did we both did pink tonight? You have
We
pink
did.
on? I did pink and pink. So yeah,
We
we're good.
did.
And didn't even
It
plan
was
it.
a plan.
Pink and black.
And I'm just
Right?
red from the sun and the
No.
yelling.
You
So
look-
I'm kind of
Did
pinkish
you
myself.
come down
So
from that yelling thing yet?
I think I'm still pretty red from the adrenaline earlier. I got a yelling match or argument with someone earlier today, ladies and gentlemen, and I expressed myself. So it's always good to
Hi,
do that.
Maria. Hi,
You
everybody.
can't be like Gandhi all the time.
No.
Maria says, hello, Christina and Erica.
Hi, Maria.
Hello.
You're Maria. I see like all of our regulars in here, everybody.
Well, yeah, because they know some big stuff went down today.
Oh my God.
They're probably
yeah.
all
So
excited.
As
I know I
excited as
am.
we are. I went into Prof's chat just to like talk to our people. I was like, guys, I just have to share it with you. I know you already heard, but like nobody else on the internet understands as much as you all do why this is so exciting.
Yeah, this is huge.
It's huge.
It's huge news, despite what the naysayers will say.
Prof, question. Did you get a chance to ask your chat program that follow-up question we discussed earlier on the phone? What was the second half of that answer? I've been running around and reading.
Oh, you didn't
some
hear
stuff.
it. Okay, I expressed it
No,
earlier.
I know 7.2, but I missed the second half.
So what it says, I can actually go and read it to
About
get
the
exact
unanimous part,
percentile.
yeah.
Yes, let's see. The exact percentile. Yeah, it's going to be astonishing, kind of concerning, by the way, guys. Let me read it. Let's see. What it says is, okay, I'm coming back. Let's see. All right. Astonishingly, what it says is that in Indiana, in the Indiana Court of Appeals, when it comes to the three-judge panel, 97% of the time they make unanimous decisions, which means that only 3% of the time does someone dissent.
Ooh.
That's pretty concerning there to me.
Yeah, but I feel like even getting oral arguments is huge. Like,
oh yeah,
that's already huge.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Is what it said is that approximately only 7.2% of the time in the state of Indiana are oral arguments ever granted, whether they're asked for or not. It says sometimes they will order oral arguments without being asked, so you don't necessarily have to ask. Mm-hmm.
No, but Mark and Stacy were astute enough to ask. Thank God.
Thank God. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both phenomenal lawyers. Their track records are pretty good.
And I agree with Prof that, historically it seems like Stacy's strength is the writing of the brief and Mark's is the arguing. So I appreciate him taking the time to do that studying and kind of, prepare us for what we need to look at next.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
It's going to be
I'm
nerve wracking, but it'll also be fun because we're in a different position now.
Yeah, we're not
So-
under NDAs and a gag order this time. Prof, Digital 7983 has a phenomenal question, and one we've discussed that I would really like everybody to hear our feelings on.
Okay, what do you girls think about the stipulations the defense team agreed to just before the start of trial?
Oh, I have a mouthful on that one. You want to go first?
I'll say it like this. I'm not a lawyer, so I learned a lot the last 3 years about the inside of a courtroom. Okay, not just what you watch on TV, but the inner workings of the courtroom, the huddles that you don't see behind the scenes, things like that. I was fortunate enough, as was Chris, to share a defense row with Bob Mata.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Bob kept stressing was that you never can argue too much. You can never object too much. Never stipulate, always object. So one of his fears was that too much was left off of the record and it wasn't objected to. And he felt that those issues should be brought up at a later date and couldn't because of those stipulations in the beginning. And I will say this, because I know Chris is going to take over from here. In our opinion, they stipulated far too early because we have found information that could have been very useful had they not stipulated to certain things.
In other words, after the first day of trial, so while trial was ongoing, information was still coming out and you were discovering more. Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that.
We were interviewing up until the last few days of trial because remember, we thought that there was going to be probably another week or two. We were just as shocked as everyone else when they rested early. So we had been given instructions to go out and secure specific interviews and potential witnesses. As you'll recall, I was on the list potentially at the end to go back and refute Harshman's testimony. So, yeah, we were just as surprised. And up until those last 2 days before the end of trial, we were still gathering information and potential witnesses. And then it just all stopped. So those stipulations, I think, are painful for us because I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it's their call, but I really feel like they should have checked with the investigators they sent out into the field to investigate.
Okay, so here's my spiel on stipulations. When lawyers heading into trial stipulate on pieces of evidence, they are not saying that evidence means what the state says it means. First of all, they're not saying that it's accurate, and they're still allowed to fight about it. What they're saying is that it came to the prosecutor in a proper way, in a proper channel. So let's say the digital evidence, that's one of the things that they stipulated to that people are very upset about. You can still argue whether it means what they say it means, which they did. All they are saying is that once the piece of evidence was in law enforcement's hands, that the proper procedures were followed afterwards.
But
which in the case of digital evidence, there were leaked documents. And so I would recommend taking a real good look at those because there is some stuff on there that could be eye-opening. So just because it's stipulated to just means that it exists and where it came from. And that and it means that the defense is allowing the prosecution to submit it as evidence.
Yeah.
And the
My
defense
biggest problem
can,
with that was the phone data and that type of digital stuff from the victim's phone. There's still anomalies that are being discovered and inconsistencies. So I think not questioning the chain of custody and all that stuff in those biggest, probably, I think the absolute biggest mistake the defense made, other than
Yes.
resting early, was not questioning the chain of custody on that phone and how all that stuff got on the phone, who had the phone, and all of that with the phone.
And
That bothers me the most.
when things were deleted and disappeared and why. And listen, as an advocate, I'll say this. No one wants a victim's name or reputation sullied or their memory sullied. And if that's the reason why this happened, why that phone was given back and things were allowed to be deleted, etc., it should have just been stated that that was the case, because now it feels very suspicious. It feels very untrustworthy. Chris was reading questions now.
sorry, it was,
It's not questions. I'm just putting things up while you talk. I'll let you know if there's a question.
no, that's all right. I keep
Yeah,
putting
but
my
go ahead.
mute on because I made a mistake and I gave my cat some catnip before we went live. So she's noisy in the background, so I apologize.
So if I see a flash across the screen, I'm gonna know what it is.
Exactly. So, and that's me throwing cat treats. When you see me looking like I'm flinging something, it's cat treats because that keeps her quiet. Anyway,
Go eat and shut up.
the digital evidence is, you're going to get to hear a lot about it in the future, I suspect, because there's more than meets the eye there. So
Shelley Klein asked Prof if the defense was ineffective counsel. And I know that's a subject that's brought up a lot. And I would really like to respond to that, if that's okay. My response is, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if the choices they made would be considered ineffective counsel. What I do know is that I've spoken to lawyers who feel that it was, and some who feel that it was not. So I have to leave that one up to a post-conviction team if that becomes the situation. It's not evading the question. I honestly don't know. I know that I'm frustrated by information I provided that wasn't followed up on and it wasn't used at trial. And I know Chris feels the same way.
yeah. It's not an argument for appeal anyway. That's an argument for post-conviction relief.
Correct. If we get there.
If we get there. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, and I would say if we end up there, I'll just put it out. I've said it before. My conviction as a non-lawyer, and I intentionally was very happy we don't have any lawyer on tonight to talk legalese, but I'm of the opinion that I see no other option. That I sense several instances of ineffective assistance, and I would hope that if we get to a point where post-conviction relief is a pathway or necessary, that's the one of the primary things that is addressed, because I think there's some questions. I have some questions about Mr. Baldwin in particular, possibly information being kept from him being unaware of certain information that was extremely important and crucial that he had no clue about. And this is no condemnation of Mr. Baldwin. I think he was handicapped and he had his hands full, and he was surrounded by people that he was leaning on that possibly didn't keep him in the direction he needed to be totally 100%. But I feel that my answer to that, Shelley, is I feel yes. If we get to post conviction relief, ineffective assistance is primary leg of that.
That's kind of like the thing that they all do anyway. You know what I mean? Anytime that you watch a post conviction relief, that's almost always in there. So it wouldn't surprise me any.
Sorry, I'm reading these comments. I think to answer a couple of these questions we're getting over and over and over from Shelley, just several questions. Here's what I'll say. Jen Auger was brought in to handle the phone data.
Very late in the investigation.
Very, very late. Chris and I got some stuff via sync drive a few weeks before trial. And to be brutally honest, we didn't get the rest of the phone data until after trial started. So we're not in a position to answer questions about decisions related to the phone data because we were kept out of that loop. Our primary dealings were with Andy. We had a few dealings with Brad, and we only met with Jen that one weekend. So I don't know. You'd have to ask Jen or Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems that Matt did a lot of investigating for Jen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know, there's a lot of assumptions made about what private investigators do on a legal team. And there seems to be some sort of misunderstanding that we were somehow in control,
right.
Or that we had an equal voice, or that it was this one big happy team that we were part of. That's not the case, y'all. Like Erica and I were hired by an agency that was created just to work this case. And that agency owner was then beholden to the lawyers. So, like, there's levels of interference. And, you know, we're a couple of women that are just PIs and we're not lawyers, and we weren't in-house investigators. We had so there's a chain of command, just like in any job. If you're working a cash register at the Dollar General, you don't get to make decisions about the price of Nabisco. You know what I mean? Like that misconception still stands. You know, there was one day, anybody in the courtroom can verify, because there were a lot of people. I went to speak to Andy on a lunch break as people were leaving the courthouse. He had asked me to do something for him, and I was answering him, and the way he snapped and yelled at me in front of a room full of people, just kind of it kind of, first of all, it shocked me because I didn't expect that. But that can help people understand what our level of say so we had. Like,
here's another example.
So I'm sorry, it kind of was like working the cash register at the Dollar General.
It
in
is.
other words.
Mhm.
So very late into the trial, we were sent out to Hoosier Harvest Store.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I want to say that hasn't really been discussed is the way that owner referred to Nick McClelland.
Yeah, Nikki.
I can't
Hold
talk
on,
to
Erica.
you.
Can I give some context before you go into that story?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so maybe I could do Q&A. Erica, For what reason were you sent?
Yeah, that's
When?
fine. Yeah.
Okay. When and for what reason were you sent to the harvest store?
Hold on, I'm trying to turn this down.
Guys, I know the answers to these questions is why
Mhm.
I'm asking them. Okay.
Very late into trial, third, maybe fourth week of a 40-day trial, and we were sent out to count the number of cameras on the building.
So we ended up talking to the girl that worked there, because it's no longer Who's Your Harvest Store. And I remember us asking, hey, were those cameras there back in 2017, or when you bought this building? Were the cameras already there, or did you have to install them after? Because all we have ever seen is photos from an alleged video. So she looked at us and she's like, why are you asking me that? We're like, well, because we would like to know. We're in court right now. And she's like, well, I have to call Nikki and ask him if I'm allowed to speak with you. And that's the level of cult-like behavior of folks of Delphi surrounding this trial. Like, why would a clerk at a store need permission from the prosecutor to answer a simple question? Like, it was weird.
So I want to go back to that real quick, because the answer to that question, by the way, which they're asking in the comment section, is 9. We counted 9 different cameras on all sides of the building. Sides of the building. Hold on just a second. We were sent out there that morning to specifically get that number. We raced back to the courthouse. I ran in wearing jeans because we were in the field. And I handed a Post-it note to Man Hoffman. And by recess, they had decided not to use that information. So we had just been pulled out of the courtroom for like 4 hours, running around because we had other things we had to do. They wanted us to do while we were out. We came back with that information, because phones weren't allowed inside. So we couldn't communicate with Matt to give him that information. So we raced back to the courthouse. I ran upstairs with a note and ran into the courtroom, handed it to Matt in the well. And by recess, they had decided not to move forward with that information. So we did what we were told to do. The information was just never used during cross-examination for whatever reason.
Correct. There was also, in the late stages of trial, the muddy, bloody guy, we had come up with a possible simple answer as to who was this muddy, bloody guy. Was there a muddy, bloody guy? And that actually came as a result of some conversations I had with a YouTuber. But anyway, we wondered if it could be someone that lives in that area, innocently going to their mailbox or taking their trash out or whatever, and happened to be by the road. This is a farm community, so ain't nobody real clean. And could it be some sort of animal slaughter, that, those guys wear their jackets all the time. And so it could have had a perfectly reasonable, normal, explainable answer. And we got pulled off of that. First, we were told to go. And then when we went to actually go, we were told, we're going to send one of the guys to go do it, which it's fine. My aim is real good, though. So it's not like we were in any danger. But, if they wanted to send one of the men, that's fine. I don't know that anyone ever did, though.
No, we know they don't. No, we know they didn't, because
I was
during
being
verdict
nice.
during verdict watch, all four of us investigators were standing together outside the courthouse awaiting the verdict. It was the Saturday of verdict watch, and we spoke for about 2 hours. And we asked point blank. We asked Matt and Brian if either one of them had gone out. And
So
they
you're
said
talking
no.
about Matt Hoffman, Brian Alvey, and you two.
Correct.
Yeah.
We didn't.
So we were
didn't
really
know Brian
frustrated.
Alvey existed until trial.
No.
Or I
No.
didn't.
No. Well, I had worked with Brian's brother, ironically. I was working with Brian's brother through another agency. And then I was working apparently with Brian on this and didn't know it. So yeah.
I
He
mean,
told
he's a
us
nice
that
guy and everything.
Yeah.
I wish we had been
Nobody sent him
introduced
out
to
there.
him sooner, because he seems like a real nice guy.
Well, and he had the ability to run plates, unlike our boss. And, we could have had that plate run to that Ford Focus that nobody will give us access to. Anyway, that's all right. That's for retrial.
That's for retrial. Or post-conviction.
Or post-conviction.
So what she's talking about is when they came up with this kooky theory that there's only one Ford Focus that looks like Rick's. They found out what Rick drove and then tried to match it to a picture. And they said, wow, a 2016 Ford Focus, or 2014, I don't remember. Don't quote me on that one. But this Ford Focus, Rick was the only one that had that kind of Ford Focus. Well, they didn't look at any other cars that had tires like what they were seeing, because they were only trying to prove that it could have been Rick's, not that it could have been any of these
That's
other
the tunnel
people.
vision mentioned in the document we just read. Yeah, the tunnel.
Yeah.
They were fixated on this
Fixated.
guy. So we're going to
So
make this
Erica-
puzzle piece fit.
So Erica starts looking, and there's another one. So not only
Wait, back that up again. I think I was talking over. Say that again.
Erica ended up looking and found another Ford Focus, just like Rick's, in that area.
So there are specific ways you can run DMV searches to manipulate the results.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm familiar with and have run many Indiana DMV searches, I know what the report looks like. And everybody else that was looking at that report didn't realize what they were reading, and I did. So I then brought it to the defense, the trial team's attention. Or actually, I brought it to Matt's attention, I'm sorry, and tried to get him to bring it to the trial team's attention. But yes, I located a second Ford Focus that had that exact same body style and wheels. And ironically, that Ford Focus had been seen at the bridge. And here's what really, really irritates me, guys. That particular Ford Focus was purchased a few weeks before the murders and was sold 1 week before trial began.
Now that you mention, I remember this story.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
So it's a good, sometimes we're just normal people, right? Me and Erica, we're just normal people, but we're just nosy nature. And that's how you become a PI, is you build your skills over time and doing skip tracing and, some other stuff.
Journalism.
Journalism. Yeah. Yeah. So like our skills are really diverse. There's not a magic computer that spits out a list of every Ford Focus in town.
No.
There is one. It's called the DMV, and they only give that to law enforcement. But the rest of us normal folks, we have to go find it.
Mhm.
But throughout the years, and we are in constant contact with other PIs and, continuing education and whatnot.
Oh,
So
could I
we've
also
gotten
say
pretty
something? And
good.
other cops, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know who talks to who, so I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was, I think that one came out in a easily accessible program, right? Yeah.
So let's see. So far, we're hitting on 9 cameras at the Harvest Store and Nikki.
Nikki.
We're hitting on a possible muddy, bloody guy who we don't investigate. Then now we're hitting on
A car.
an alternative Ford Focus type vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Without saying too much, I have checked that vehicle thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
Chris and I have worked cases where people disappeared and were transported in vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen what vehicles look like on the inside and the trunk and the carpeting
After they've been processed.
after they've been processed. And we also know all the places to look for
Mm-hmm.
blood spatter, for things like that. We've taken courses in this. And I will tell you that there is a teeny tiny little piece, guys, about this big of carpeting underneath the wheel well. Or I'm sorry, not underneath the spare tire. That's the only place where carpeting was removed. And that car is spotless. I've seen vehicles where bloody bodies have been transported and where suspects have left. And I've seen the results of that evidence getting inside that vehicle. Rick's vehicle was pristine. Nothing's ever been replaced. You can tell nothing had been shampooed, nothing had been bleached, no damage was done. This is not a vehicle that transported a muddy, bloody killer.
There's no fingerprint dust. That shit gets on
Oh, yeah, that's
everything.
right. That's right. No fingerprint dust whatsoever.
Not even in the
Oh, yeah.
neon colors. No neon.
Let's back
and
that
no
up
black
because
dust.
the ladies here are talking about they went and viewed Rick's car.
Correct.
We all know from law enforcement and this trial unfolding that they found absolutely nothing. Let me change this configuration. So they found absolutely nothing in Rick Allen's car. If he's muddy and bloody, they found
Mhm.
no blood, no DNA, no hair, no nothing. Okay. So that's your context. Now I'll let them take back up because I don't know if you guys hear what they just said. So, first of all, not a speck of nothing in the car, including what? Fingerprint dust?
Yeah, no fingerprint dust. Mm-mm. And I can't see those cops then cleaning up after themselves. There's no way that the crime scenes don't they don't clean up after themselves.
Well, Christine, I've seen, okay, when I had to go to the impound, the vehicle impound, and you see the cars that are there being held for law enforcement, they all have evidence stickers over every single door, over the trunk, over the hood, so that nothing can be opened on this vehicle. And if you try to remove those evidence stickers, it's the most belligerent type of adhesive in the world.
Yeah.
You cannot remove those evidence stickers on the vehicles without
no.
leaving the evidence sticker on the vehicle.
Yeah,
So
there was
did
none
you
of that.
even see a single evidence sticker or piece of remnant of one?
Nope. We know.
You could also tell that what's that vacuum that they're supposed to
the particle.
Yeah, the particle vacuum. That hadn't been done. And there was also a blue, it was a blue hoodie. I'll say it, I think it's safe to say it, blue hoodie in the back that was left there. Like all of Rick's other blue jackets.
They didn't even take that into evidence.
Mm-mm.
They didn't even claim it. They left it laying in the back.
Basically, they didn't even really need to investigate his car because they knew there was nothing in the car, and that they were setting this guy up. That's the vibe I get. Because these cops in this town here where I live, they will take your car if they suspect you at all or inebriated or anything. They will take that goddamn car, bring it to the wherever the facility where the police station is. They'll go fine tooth comb through that car, fingerprint it, do the remnant test for drug residue, for hairs, for fiber, whatever they need to do, put the evidence stickers all over. You can't get that shit off for 10 years. And then you get your car back.
And I don't recall, I think that warrant and the evidence return, I think that made it to the public eye. But I don't recall seeing any swabs from inside the door switches or the grab bar under the seat that moves the seat forward and backwards. Usually when blood's found in a vehicle that has at least attempted to have been cleaned, that's the kind of places that they will find blood. They'll find it in the door, but like in the jam where the sticker is that says what year it was manufactured and how full to make your tires or whatever. It's usually in there. And didn't look like any of that was cleaned or checked or whatever.
How about luminol? Have you asked Kathy, or did you guys do a check for luminol?
So I think that Indiana uses Blue Star now, but they might have used luminol at that point. But I would think that it would be probably long gone because it's not colored. You know what I mean? It would glow if there was something biologic in there. And actually you bring up a good point, because if there was something biologic, it should still glow.
Yeah, that's what I get this impression there's nothing. The car is absolutely pristine.
It is.
Yeah.
They don't even try to really thoroughly find anything in there. Possibly because they can see it's absolutely pristine. They know it's pristine. They probably did do a little spraying of something, saw not a single drop of blood. And I just can't understand if Rick Allen is muddy and bloody, just slaughtered two little girls as bloody as that crime scene was. He walks, gets in his car, drives away. You're never getting that blood out of that car.
Exactly. Especially if he was bloody enough to be called Muddy Bloody Guy.
Correct.
You never get it off. Every criminal thinks that they're brilliant and they think that they did a good job, but no, they all miss.
We had a case
what about the blood on the gun? I'd never thought of this. His gun. Wouldn't you expect there would be blood residue on the gun, as bloody as that individual would have had to have been, and then handling a weapon? And he keeps the gun, he keeps the car. You don't find blood on the gun or the car?
Right. I don't know, man. I've thought about applying to be an Indiana crime tech because
you qualify.
Well, I mean, apparently you don't have to leave your house because they left the sticks there at the scene. They probably left other shit. They probably left clothing.
Left that big limb. They left that big old limb in Brad Weber's garage.
Right. Well, they came back. Now, let's not beat up on them too bad. They did come back 3 days later.
Listen, I don't mean to laugh because this is not a laughing situation. I laugh because of how ridiculous a job they did. Mm-hmm. Because Chris and I can't stress this enough. When we saw that car, it was we literally busted out laughing like, what the hell are these guys thinking? They
Mhm.
didn't even try to look like they investigated. They didn't even pretend to process the car.
Mm-mm.
We've seen. I just can't. Yeah,
They can't
yeah.
count
Yeah,
either.
Brittany
So,
says,
there's
No.
that.
They can't count either.
it's
No.
a new day, says Little Prof in there doing his own analysis of the state's BS case. But look, Brittany, hello to you. Brittany appears to be a local in Indiana. She says, after how many people walk through the crime scene? Yeah.
Ooh, Brittany. Ma'am.
Welcome, Brittany.
Yeah. So Brittany has either been paying attention or she's a person that knows.
She's an elephant and forgets nothing.
Uh-huh, that's right. So yeah. There were trespassers in the crime scene. And some of those trespassers found things and took them away from the crime scene with them. I know of at least 2 and possibly more. I know that the night of the 14th, or the evening of the 14th, there was a civilian flying a drone around. They got chased away. I know that somebody's YouTube, not yours, Prof. You're good. Somebody's YouTube follower, like one of their watchers, visited the crime scene, found something that didn't belong in a damn crime scene, a cell phone, and then scheduled lunch with their favorite content creator, who might be named after a color of the rainbow. And then that YouTuber didn't turn it in. So
Are you talking about a phone?
I'm talking about a phone. Yes, sir.
I know this. I know some of this story, not from you, but from
Right.
someone else. So that
Yeah.
confirms that story
Yeah.
that's been out here for 5 years.
Oh, yeah. So apparently this YouTuber takes his phone home and his girlfriend says, "Hey, let's take that to Central Command." And this YouTuber says, "I'm not giving that to anybody. That's staying here." So, breakups are a bitch when couples fall out and they have to divide things. And, when you're messed up, it's hard to remember that somebody gave you a phone. So that phone did make its way into law enforcement hands. But, that's a trespasser in the crime scene. There was another one that a lady and her grandchild went to the crime scene, adult grandchild. She didn't take no little one. But while they were at the crime scene, they picked up some bloody leaves and took them home. Law enforcement seized them on the cameras. Remember that there were cameras out at the crime scene. Law enforcement placed those after the murder so they could see if the killer comes and goes. So they see these people on the camera. Well, there's also a camera in the parking lot that reads your plates. So they went to the lady's house and was like, "We saw you at the crime scene. What were you doing?" She says, "Oh, I'm a psychic. And I went to collect some blood so that, I could do my psychic stuff." Law enforcement told her, "You can't do that.
Dude.
You're trespassing in a crime scene." But then
But why
when they
did they
left,
leave bloody leaves?
they left
That's a
the
whole other
leaves with the
question.
lady. They left the leaves with the psychic. They didn't even take them back. So I am offended on behalf of those children because they deserve to have their case treated with respect and to have certainly their blood treated with some frickin' respect. And
Please, can
instead,
you please respect the victim's blood?
yeah, correctly, exactly. So, how you take some kid's blood? How is that not creepy? To me, it's creepy, but that's just me. But the problem is that law enforcement, they let that be okay. And they didn't tell anyone. It's not like that was made a point of. It was some narrative that I happened across in the middle of the night as I was working my 12 hours that day. It was in the files, but it was in that scattered confetti-ness. But those weren't the only trespassers. Go ahead, Erica.
You just brought up something that I don't think we've ever mentioned. And, we talked earlier about how we were just going to kind of talk like we do on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize, because we've never said it, our schedules for the most part are opposite. I'm very early. I'm early to bed, early to rise. This is late for me to be up. Chris is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So because we got the Discovery Drive late and we had a lot of catch up to play, we went like 8 to 12 hours a day each for 4 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I would take early shift, she would take late shift.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would do is right before I wrapped up for the day, I would call her and we would get on a call and I would say, these are the most important things I found today.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that stuck out to me. And then I would go catch some sleep or go to my other job and she would take over. And then we'd get back on the phone, usually 5:30, 6 o'clock the next morning. And she would say, this is what I found last night. And as I said, we read through everything, but we each took very specific things. Like I was supposed to know tips inside and out. And Chris knew, oh my God, crime scene photos and autopsy because she went to med school. And so there is just, it reminded me, as you said that we checked each other's work.
Mm.
It wasn't just we read it, we checked each other's work.
Right.
Because you had that accordion file and I had notebooks and binders.
Mm-hmm. So before anybody freaks out, I did not go to med school. I studied medicine in college.
Sorry. Okay. No, you're right.
Because some people really enjoy making something out of nothing. So just so we're clear.
Sorry. Yes, whatever. By the way, we'll get into this later on the phone, but I've got the answers on that project I've been working on, and you're gonna end up having to send another text. So
okay,
it's worse than the one you sent earlier. Just so you know.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
So I'm kind of like the funny thing about me with these ladies. I'm on both of their schedules.
Yeah.
So I probably sleep 4 hours a night. No, I'm not joking. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's my sleeping hours. All other hours I'm awake, usually, unless I take a blood sugar nap in the middle of the day for 30 minutes, which sometimes happen when I'm naughty. But the interesting thing with speaking with both of these ladies is because of their differences. Christine knows and is expert in certain things that she handled extensively. Mm-hmm. Erica differently in what she handled, but they also cross-reference because they were in communication. And then Prof in his investigation, which was wonderful, as soon as we all three started talking, they're confirming things, they're fact-checking things, I'm confirming things, I'm suggesting things. And so, like I said, when we're talking about a good 50 people encapsulated in this conversation you're hearing tonight, because me and my 10 and them and their 10 each, we start to get into numbers of a large group of people who actually know what's going on. And not that any of us know everything, but like neither of these ladies, I believe, have ever spoken to Reese Davis. I've spoken to Reese Davis many hours. I've never spoken with some of the individuals who will remain unnamed, who these ladies have spoken with. So, but we all are working cooperative, which is very important. And so I think that's something for all of you listeners to take away from this tonight. And that when we talk, we're talking about Rick Allen and the girls and his crime. We don't care about all this other stuff. We're focused on how do we do both things at once? How do
Mm-hmm.
we give the next group that's going to be handed the ball the ability to work this case, while at the same time, how do we help get Rick Allen out of a situation that he should not currently be in, which is the same as Stacy and Mark are doing. Um, so I want to throw that in there. But since Christine is talking, I do want to give this one to Christine because I know she can answer it.
Okay.
Digital asks, Christine, have you seen the full autopsy?
I have.
Were organs weighed and condition and viability described?
So that's standard. And because the autopsy and crime scene evidence was sealed after court, you're going to have to just believe me when I say it was a standard, straightforward autopsy.
Yeah, that's all been sealed, so they cannot discuss that in detail,
Correct.
digital, but
It was
it is
done.
my understanding that
Yeah.
it's a full autopsy with photos. Now, the real question is the testimony of the medical examiner. That's where I encourage you all out there who listening to ask questions. Go into the testimony of the medical examiner, and you will come away with a lot of questions and a lot of shit that don't make sense, specifically referencing the inability to determine accurately the time of death. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to skip over this, Giuseppe. I'm going to answer this yes, Giuseppe, but we can't talk about that, Giuseppe. But it's also inconclusive, Giuseppe. So, okay,
Mandy,
that gets
just
us.
real quick. Mandy, yes, info beyond the pictures were sealed. The autopsy reports were sealed. The crime scene photos were sealed. The crime scene reports were everything related to those. There's an Indiana law that protects minors, and so Gull had the right within the confines of that law to seal anything that would essentially sully the girls, embarrass the girls, humiliate them, bring further harm to the families. Anything along those lines were sealed. So, you guys are asking about banana pancakes. We'd love to answer that question. We're violating a court order if we give you that answer.
Yeah, and let me chime in on that because they can't answer it.
Correct.
They can't talk about it, but we can, ladies and gentlemen. All of us can talk all we want about that, but
Correct.
they are prohibited from doing so. But yes, because these victims were minors at the time of their murders, they were afforded an extra level of protection and privacy when that was all sealed after trial. So as I mentioned, they can't really dive into those details, but we can all talk about that ad infinitum. So don't think we can't talk about it. Just understand they're limited in some things because of the sealing order about certain aspects.
And
some autopsy science has been bastardized by television. And so there are logical leaps people make about things like time of death and how you use an autopsy to estimate that. So if someone wants to do their due diligence because they just have to know, keep in mind that it was probably below freezing that night. It was 40 was the high during the day, and it was cold that night. So you take insects out of the equation entirely. So a lot of the things that they use, like body temperature, those kinds of things, when you're essentially in a freezer overnight, or refrigerator, that changes what a doctor will see the next day. You also have to remember that on the 14th, they were still at the crime scene until well after dark. A lot of the crime scene photos, it was dark outside, and the girls were still there.
Let me chime in on that too, because I think a lot of people work under this assumption that when the bodies were discovered, here comes the ambulance and they pull
Yeah.
them away, so they're gone by 3 p.m. or something.
Yeah,
No
that's
way.
TV.
More like 3 a.m. or something. Who knows?
Mhm.
I think these ladies will know more than me, but
It
that's
was late. I
another
could tell it was dark.
complication.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, you're spending 2 days at 40-degree temperatures. That affects things. And I'm not making excuses, but I mean that is it just is what it is. And all of the normal things that are done during an autopsy were done. Were they done right? Hell, I don't know. I'm not the expert that's testifying about the medical examiner. So, yeah, I can say that they were documented that all of the normal things were done. Toxicology, stomach content, all of those things were collected. And then you can figure it out from there. Read between the lines or do some independent research.
Can
But
I ask a question? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but
no, you're all right.
were rape
I can
kits
tell
done
you know.
to both girls that you know?
What happened?
Were rape kits performed with both girls,
They
and were
were.
results provided to the defense?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's standard
Uh-huh.
given this situation. So Chris is not disclosing anything she shouldn't be. Protocol in this situation would be to run those kits. And if they hadn't been run, you would have expected the trial lawyers to challenge that.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of that, I mean, that's in the trial transcript. So, I mean, as far as what I saw, without taking you down the nightmare of what the people working this case have had to see, law enforcement included, medical examiner's office included, nobody should ever have to see what we saw. But that there was no evidence of any type of assault, like physical assault. There was none
And
of
that
that.
matches what the state
I
has
mean,
said.
I said
Yeah,
that.
that's all on the that's all on the record anyway.
It is all on the record. And I
But
said it wrong.
there's so many
Clearly they were
questions.
assaulted, their throats were slit.
Yeah.
But you understand, y'all are
Mm-hmm.
adults, you know. I
And
mean,
also,
south of the
it's
border.
like not every interaction will leave the signatures of a sexual
Correct.
assault. So I'll leave that at
Correct.
that.
Yes.
Someone
Yeah.
said, I'm trying to gently move on. Okay, let's
Yeah.
see. Someone said, where is it? About left-handed versus right-handed. Where was it? Help me out, Deb. I think it was Digital who might have asked that.
Yeah,
But,
I don't think they made any conclusion. I don't remember there being any assumption whether they were right or left-handed. I know that there were allegedly, the medical examiner, forensic pathologist, same thing. When he testified, he kind of changed his theory on weapons, but at the time of autopsy, it was decided that there were two weapons. So one was a straight edge and one was serrated. That's his original claim. And then, of course,
please say that again, because I know that's in the court record, but I'd like you to say it that way again for the listeners in the back.
Okay, so at the time of autopsy, his his judgment led him to believe that there were two separate weapons and that one was a serrated edged weapon and one was a straight edged weapon. And then when he got on the stand, he kind of threw all that out the window and said, I was thinking about it and it could have been a box cutter.
He changed his story after the meeting with prosecutor McClelland. That
Correct.
story is very well known. He changed his story
Mhm.
after the final meeting with prosecutor McClelland.
Correct.
He changed to it's a box cutter because the box cutter could have done it.
I want to address something that's coming up multiple times in the chat, and that's about Rick being moved. Profs mentioned for his protection. Somebody else was said to drive him crazy. Rick was moved right around the time that the appeal was being started. And if you will recall, when his lawyers were in Indianapolis and Logansport, instead of keeping Rick in Carroll County Jail, they shipped him all the way up to Westville at WCC, 3 hours away from his attorneys, 3 to 4 hours away from his attorneys. And then all of a sudden he gets assigned an appellate team and he gets shipped off to Oklahoma.
Because 4 hours wasn't far enough.
Correct.
To get in the way.
So
I'm assuming
this was one of those things where everybody kind of started calling everybody going, wait a minute. Was Rick moved for his protection? Was Rick moved to make him isolated? And then it was like, Rick was moved because it makes it impossible for his lawyers to see him. Which is why Mark and Stacy then had to go to Judge Gull and request additional expenses during this process to fly out to Oklahoma to meet with Rick in person. And I don't think that's very well known, but it's not something that's sealed or protected information because it could be found in the billing records. Mm-hmm. It also cuts through everybody's claim that it's too late for defense investigators to be paid out of that budget. Just saying. Just saying. So yeah, that's kind of the consensus, is it was to throw a wrench into his ability to meet with and assist his appellate counsel, just as he was denied those same opportunities with trial counsel.
Well, and so I'll add my conspiracy theory in here, in that the same time Rick was moved also coincided with a certain individual here on the internet repeatedly announcing hits on Rick, and that there were several people contracted to unalive Rick, both at Pendleton, at Westville, and wherever else, I think. Or
hold on a second. I'm sorry, I gotta interject here for a second. Who dis? The Allen family has specifically requested that no information about Rick's current situation be discussed. I don't know who you are. I've seen a few different comments tonight, and all of them are a little concerning. Let's not discuss things that the family has specifically requested be off limits. Please, if you're here for Rick, please be here for Rick. That's I'm going to leave it at that.
That's a troll.
I kind of come from the standpoint of Kathy's story belongs to Kathy, and she can tell her story anytime that she chooses. And so I'm real careful to never say things like, well, Kathy said this or Kathy said that. With
Nobody
the exception of one of the big quotes that came from Kathy is, if you solve Flora, you will solve Delphi. That is an instruction that we were given, and we follow that. But other than that, Kathy didn't do anything wrong. And even if you thought Rick was guilty. Kathy still didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, we let Kathy speak for Kathy. She's
But
not weak and
specifically,
fragile like everyone thinks she is.
oh, and
If
she's,
she had
yeah.
something to say, she'd say it.
Mm-hmm. It's yeah, a lot of people have misrepresented that in her. They seem to think that she's weak-minded or feeble. I don't think I've ever met a stronger woman than her. So yeah, there's just a lot, but yeah, let's respect that. Things are going well. Let's just leave it at that and not poke the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and I wasn't trying to be mean or anything. We're very protective.
Well,
We're very protective.
yeah.
And the families' lives have been stolen, their memories have been stolen, their photos, their videos, everything's been stolen. And so when we're asked to honor something and maintain confidentiality, we take that very seriously. And just clearly you're someone who has had contact with the family, so you should just want to make sure that we're making you aware of what we've been asked by the family. Let's just leave it at that.
It's always uncomfortable. Like, I don't like to make waves with people, and I'm always worried about like hurting somebody's feelings or whatever. But sometimes it can be really uncomfortable to know things and not be able to just say them. Like that's uncomfortable. That's part of why PIs get paid what we get paid, is because we do the hard things, and one of those is protecting information. It just kind of is.
Yeah, that's why we're never going to explain to somebody. One of the most frustrating things for me, but I've learned to ignore it, is people with 34 followers going, Erica, you need to explain why you didn't do this. Erica didn't do this. Yeah. Erica didn't do this. My NDA wasn't with you.
Right.
My NDA was with the trial attorneys. So I don't explain to anyone why I did or didn't do something.
Right.
Because all of those things are explained and understood by the people who need to understand those things. So yeah, it's because one of the things about being a PI and doing this particular work is you have to have some really thick skin.
Oh yeah, for sure. I had a guy that like went on this rampage because they thought that I had some sort of control over what lawyers choose to do and don't do. It's not that simple. It's just not.
No.
It's not that simple. We gather, we present, and then we sit and watch. That's kind of the job in a nutshell, right?
Sounds pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Right, Brittany? Agreed. Digital, what percentage of what actually happened do you feel like you know? How much do you think can be proven? Not going near that question. Sorry. That kind of like, you're asking something that you're asking a question that you're expecting a linear answer for. And
I can try. So
I won't, because there's too much at stake. Rick's freedom is at stake, guys.
I'm not going to talk about Rick.
No, I know.
Because here's the thing. The thing that no one knows outside of those with, confidential information, nobody knows what Rick or Kathy was doing that day. because Rick and Kathy didn't testify. So, like, I can tell you that, like, I believe Kelsey got there when she said she did. I believe Betsy's Fitbit wasn't miraculously hacked and gave off wrong times. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that I can say that we do know. Like, we know, we think we know. They used vehicles to kind of lock the people that were coming and going, lock in their timelines, and then they used phones to kind of lock it in further. So a lot of the state's timeline, sure, if we want to talk about from, 2:30 to 5, sure. Except for you got to remove Rick from that whole goddamn ball of mess, because he says he wasn't there. And until you see trial evidence that tells you otherwise, you don't know either. You know what I mean? Not you, Erica, or you, Prof.
No, I know.
I mean everybody else, but you've not heard any testimony about where Rick actually was, or what he was actually doing, or what Kathy was doing, or where she was. Like, that is unknown to the public. I know enough to realize that I know enough to know that there was a time earlier in the day where he says that he was there, and there were no witnesses to place him anywhere else. Nobody could put him anywhere other than where he said he was at the time he said he was there. So I know that much. The rest of it, you're going to hear more later at a retrial or in post conviction, I'm sure. But most of the comings and goings that were said to happen, probably. I know 3 is not 4, and it sure in the hell isn't 6 or 7. That I know.
Digital has kind of rephrased that question.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a lot more comfortable answering it this
Oh,
way.
yeah,
he was basically asking, he or she asking for a number, not names or details, wondering how confident you are that the truth will be known one day. I'm highly confident. I won't give a percentage. I'm highly confident that the truth will be known one way or the other. That's just, yeah, there's too much coming down at once. There's no way they can keep this covered up anymore.
So Erica and I this is where we differ. And Prof too. Like, I'm not real sure what happened that day. That's the most frustrating thing for me, is that I have all of these facts, and I have all of this evidence, and I have all of this testimony and depositions, and like it's all there. And no matter how many times I read it, or how many times I look back at my notes, and little minor things were still coming, that are still coming up. Like Reese was huge. But even with all of that information, I couldn't tell you with 100% certainty that I know who did it. But I can tell you I know who didn't. I mean, it's really simple in my world. I know Rick didn't. And so I still work at who did. I work out who I think did it. But that's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I got no comment what they said.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't want to get myself in hot water either.
Yeah, huh?
But
like I just.
but I also want to be honest that like I can tell you that my personal opinion and feelings are that I wouldn't want to be the prosecutor that decides who he's going to go for. I think Rick was just, I don't know how in the hell they came up with that idea, but I don't know. I don't get paid enough to make those decisions.
Well, any more questions, guys? Maybe we'll get out of here. I know that I definitely feel the truth is just rising to the surface on all these matters. And the problem is when the truth rises to the surface, or when you turn the lights on in a room full of cockroaches, they start to scatter and they'll walk over each other. They'll cannibalize each other if they're locked in. Um, and I think that's where we're entering. And, I think I don't ever even look honestly, because here's the problem here. We're dealing with defense investigators. All
Mhm,
they had what was in discovery to
mhm.
to inform themselves of. I'm not confident that anything in discovery matters for the truth of the matter. I think there's things in discovery that exonerate Rick, but I
Yeah,
don't think there's anything in discovery that actually points to the truth of the matter because 90%, probably in upwards of 90% of what would have led to the truth of the matter, I feel, was sanitized. So they
correct.
ended up with sanitized discovery, and maybe there's a needle in the haystack. I know Amy G has found a couple needles in the haystack, despite them beating up on her all the time. She's found some
Mhm,
needles in the haystack. Christina's found some needles in the haystack.
mhm.
Uh, I found some needles in the haystack. Reese Davis has found some needles in the haystack. So we've got like this community, what do we call it? Like crowdsourcing intel. So we got this community crowdsourcing of intel that's supplementing the needles in the haystack that have been uh, discovered as a result of this whole process. Now we're looking at this appeal and then whatever comes after it. But I think the can of worms has already been opened. So I don't see any questions here. But
I want to answer a couple of quick questions.
oh, you see some?
If
Okay.
yeah, a couple that I just wanted to touch on because they're repeating, and then I want to real quick point out something or answer something you said earlier, Prof. Before we came on, geofence off limits for us. I'm
Mhm.
not discussing any phone data, not discussing geofence. That's just all there is to it for 1,000 reasons. It's not that anybody's trying to hide anything. Geofence is important to a retrial, and that's all I got to say about that.
Mhm.
Um,
I concur. Thousand
So do
percent.
I. Mhm,
we have a pact with Kathy that we don't discuss our conversations with her. So no, I'm not going to discuss um, what's been discussed with Kathy lately. We chatted quickly on Mother's Day, and that's all I'll say about that. Um, Prof, earlier you asked about whether or not the state was lying to the Court of Appeals in their response. I firmly believe they did lie in their response. And I want you to check out our guy, Scott Bernstein. Sorry. I think it was Scott who did a new update on the Rico raid. Gigi Ravito is accused of lying in his federal court documents in his response from his attorney. That in it of itself is another federal crime.
Mhm.
Reporters in Chicago have started digging into that and disputing with good evidence claims made in that federal response. There are indications that he could be facing additional charges for lying to the federal court. You are the person to dig a little bit deeper into that because you've pinpointed the areas where you think they could be lying in that response. So I'd love to see you go further in that because that's something that we could pass off to lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are additional crimes. When you lie to an appellate court, when you lie to a court, period. Well, wait a minute. We all know this from recent events.
Well,
When you lie to a court and to a judge in
I
a
was going to say,
document,
isn't this all under oath, under penalty of perjury, and under an
yes,
oath here?
yes, and that's all I'll say. But yeah, I just bit my tongue. I think you're onto something there, and I think that could result in additional charges for people, and that was just a great catch that I want to see you take further.
You know, I say this every time we're on together, but when I was researching, I would listen to live and read kind of all at the same time and bounce back and forth because your eyes get tired. You can't sit still and read the most boring FBI
For 15
narrative.
hours a day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just can't. And so, and there's things that YouTubers talk about that aren't necessarily going to be in court, like family trees and family histories and that kind of stuff. That's not usually something that you see in court documents. You see people being named and then you have to do the work to put them all together. Well, we leaned on YouTube for that. And it didn't take us very long for us to figure out who was accurate and careful about what they say and whatnot. And we found you and watched you for a long time. You and I didn't have our first conversation until after trial started. You know, I think it was either after trial started or that week right before trial,
Shortly before, who knows? Yeah.
before we
didn't.
ever spoke.
Prof and I didn't talk until post conviction. That was the first time we ever had a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, I talked with Christine a good year before I ever spoke to Erica once.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because I trust no one. No offense,
Yeah.
but I trust no one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
thank you.
your help was invaluable, man, because we were able to cut through some of that minutia, and that meant we didn't have to go and put some things together.
Like you
And you
said
gave
before,
us theories
Cliff's
and
Notes type
ideas.
of
It was
bouncing
helpful.
ideas.
Yeah. And I had the records, but it's up to the reader to decide how much weight to give each of those things. Because we had like 15 different people who admitted to killing these girls. So it's not like we had a shortage of weirdos to be looking at.
or
Because
confessions.
Yeah, we had confessions from like 15 different people.
We got 15 different people confessing over 7, 8 years, but Rick's the one who
Right.
matters when he's totally, completely psychotic, eating his own
Right.
feces and doing all of the other crazy
Yes.
stuff and getting forcibly medicated because he had man down incidents, a completely unhinged psychotic episodes. But those are the confessions that
Right.
stick. Yeah.
Right. I've heard people say, oh, you can't trust an inmate. Really? Because Rick was an inmate at the time that he was sedated and whatever. But if you're going to say that Rick's are valid, then that means that an inmate is able to confess. And if that's the case, we got a whole list of them. So that law enforcement was at that jail often because there were people in there claiming to have done it. There was a lawyer that claimed to have done it. Like, yeah, mental illness is real. And people confess for
Especially
all
in
kinds of
Delphi,
reasons.
especially in the Delphi case.
in true crime cases.
In true crime on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again for your help. You didn't know you were
Thank you.
helping.
We've all helped each other so much. I mean,
Mhm.
it has been amazing working group of sorts.
Mhm.
And hey, and there's something I want to address because people will always bring this up to try to lash out in anger or mock, but this is very serious. Okay, I'm gonna look into the screen for the viewers. This is very serious. So when you hear the indications from any three of us to the extent of can't talk about that, but there's more about this or that or the other. It's not that we don't want to.
Mhm.
It's that we have to face the reality that Rick Allen may be facing another jury, an entire trial, by disclosing things that may be crucial or essential components of a do-over. We would be putting Kathy Allen, Brittany, and Rick all in jeopardy. Is that the legacy you want to leave? Is that what you would want any of us three to leave? Is that
Yeah.
we come and insert ourselves into a case, learn pertinent key details that might be useful in convincing a jury that Rick Allen is innocent? Would you want us for clout or for attention to come and spout that on the internet at a time when we don't even know what he's going to be facing? So when we say there are certain things that are very compelling and important things that we would love to talk about, but we can't, it's not for our bragging rights. What we're saying is we're optimistic because there are things that give such optimism at pointing to Rick being exonerated and other people being implicated. But if we were to spill those beans onto the internet, that totally diffuses the potential validity of that information, and someone could use that information to go dispose of evidence, so to speak, whether it's digital, it's paperwork, or physical evidence. So there's no way on earth we're going to give information that someone could go and dispose of in any sort of way or manipulate, so that if we end up in another trial, that evidence has been ruined because evidence has surfaced since trial. So the point I want to make in standing up for these ladies and myself is that we're not here to brag. We're here to say this shit is serious.
Yeah.
And we have all lost loved ones, and we know how serious this is, and you should know how serious this is. Why we won't F around. And that's all I'm going to say. We won't keep referencing it. I know that Reese has referenced some things. There's been other people that bring things up, and I want everyone to know that there are some things that give us a very good reason to be optimistic for another trial or post conviction relief if any of this heads in this either of these directions. So please be easy on that. We've got people here. We've all experienced the ugly side of life, both personally and by intervening in this case. And so please try to do better out there, because the amount of trauma and abuse that's come from involvement with this case is not to be underestimated. You can joke around here about how any of us look, act, how broke we are, any of travesties in our life, and the things that have gone wrong. But what you don't understand, all of that is a result from the targeting that occurs because we choose to come and advocate for all of these victims surrounding these cases. And so that's my speech. But I think it needed to be said before we get out of here, or before we celebrate any further about this hearing. We're here to celebrate tonight that Mark and Stacey will have an opportunity to advocate for Rick in front of the judges, which is a human touch to this. But the bigger picture here is this is very serious. And beyond any of this shit on the internet, this is real life. And so when I say we're friends here and we sit here and we talk with each other, it's for good reasons. Because, you know, I care about Christine when she's not talking about Delphi. I care about Erica when she's not talking about Delphi. They care about me. It's just Christine's the reason my hand is not totally damaged. It's damaged. But Christine forced me to immediately go to the ER. And even still, I have damage. So people first, bullshit second. Okay. And that's my speech.
Yeah. It's no fun to sit there and say, oh, well, we know some shit, but I'm not telling you. That's no fun. So it's not like we're doing that on purpose. And especially for me, because Erica trusts no one, but I like to trust people. I'm a Buddhist, man. We're the peace loving, give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I will sit down at a table and eat dinner with anyone from our last president to somebody that is houseless. So, like, I want to inherently be able to trust people, but Rick is counting on us to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And so till after this is all over, then I'll be able to share it all. But until then, you know, this is the existence that we have.
Yeah, we have to hold it together for these victims and Rick and his family.
You good, Erica? You're gonna cry, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I already was. Yeah, it's I don't like not trusting anyone. It's a result of the way I've been treated by people who don't understand our jobs and people who were sent here to create problems. What I will say is that I come off sometimes as, I guess, rude or dismissive, and if you get to know me, you'll learn that that's actually the exact opposite of who I am. It's that I take this so seriously that there's no room for error.
Yeah.
That's I'll just leave it at that.
That's true.
That's where you and I are very much
worst critic.
That's where you and I are very much the same, Erica. And I know Christine has pointed that out
all the time. She says you and Prof are two sides of a coin, man.
I mean, we are very much the same, because when I first started talking with Erica, it was so funny because I'd call her in the morning. She'd say, "Why are you mad?" And I'm like, "I'm not mad." What the fuck are you talking about? And I'm
Why are you so grouchy? Why are you so grouchy?
I'm not mad at all. I'm fine. I just woke up.
Right?
But it's
You know,
because
to be fair, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
go
To be
ahead.
fair, you know, Erica worked for decades as a reporter, and the writing style of someone like me who is just kind of fly by night. When you're a reporter, you can't do that. Her writing is just very dry and it's direct. And I think sometimes if you're trying to assign emotions to a reporter, you're always going to get it wrong because they don't have any emotions in their writing. So sometimes you can read it and go, "Ooh, Erica's having a bad day," but really it's not. It's just it's
Sticking to the facts.
yeah, it's been your job forever. So
35 years.
that gets ingrained in there. And so y'all take a deep breath. She's not yelling. I swear.
No,
She's
no.
just answering. It
Yeah.
just sounds like that in writing. Now when you get her talking,
Well, because look at what you've got on the screen, y'all. You've got an investigator over there, Erica Morse. You've got a researcher in the middle, Christine Salzer. You've got a teacher right here, Prof. So together, we're more than the sum of our parts. Because I do a little investigation, I do a little research, but where I shine is being able to help with an understanding of that which I've researched and investigated and partnered with. And I think all of us, we all work this way. And I always hate the Hillary Clinton takes a village to raise a child. But this is the sort of thing that this takes a village because it's this complex of a. If we believe this is, whether it was directly a cover up by law enforcement or it was something bungled to the extent that it has the effect of a cover up, either way, the end of this is that it has the effect. It is a cover up by law enforcement. When there's a cover up of someone intentionally tries to make something hidden and difficult, and a normal murder investigation is already difficult. So this is an exponentially different scenario where you've had so much interference, collusion, cover up, mishandling, and disappearing of stuff, and people covering for each other. There's been so much complexity that it truly does. It will take all of this village, and it has, whether the infighting or not, and the doxing and all of the bullshit. It has taken all of this, and it will continue to take all of this to push this up to the surface, because a great effort has gone into making sure that this never sees the light of day. So this is why it's important we're here.
That's a great way, I think, for us to kind of end it for tonight. I was talking, I'll say my little thing. I was talking with Vinny earlier, and he asked if this means optimism. Eric, are you optimistic now? And I said, not only am I optimistic that Rick Allen's going to get a new trial and walk free, I said, but I am very optimistic that Jerry Holman is not going to sleep well tonight and might be crapping his pants. Because I just want to remind you all, this all started for Jerry Holman really decided to bring it home the moment Rick Allen shook his finger at him and said, I didn't hurt those girls, and you are never going to get me to say I did. And Holman responded by saying, we'll see about that.
You're guilty of something, and I'm going to prove it.
right.
So, personally, professionally, I know he's watching.
Hope you guys don't sleep well at night.
Your turn, Holman.
Yeah.
Now it's time.
And my optimism here, the most optimistic part of that goddamn document, which I'm going to put on the screen when we get out here, that goddamn document says this: That goddamn let me bring it up now, cause this is the fucking bee's knees right here. It's number 3. The arguments will be webcast at www.in.gov/judiciary and will be televised, which means
Mm-hmm.
this will be on the world stage.
Yes, it will. It's a lot harder to lie when the world's watching you.
I applaud the state of Indiana right now, the appellate tribunal there. This is the transparency the world needs. And let's see what comes of this, because you can't put this one back in the bag.
Mm-mm.
I mean, unless we have a sudden internet outage on September 21st.
And listen, we
pull the
got
Iran
Erica
card.
already. We got Erica already in a safe location. We can burn the world to the ground after all of this is over.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yep.
There might be some folks that have answers or questions to answer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Some folks are definitely going to have some questions to answer after all this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah,
ladies.
I'm spent. It's been a long day, guys.
It's been
Thank
extremely
you
long. It's been a long
to
stream,
both of
but I
you.
think it was great.
Thanks,
Me too.
everybody
Thank
in
you
the
so
chat.
much. Everyone, please give the thanks out to Christine and Erica. And I believe Erica is going to be featured on Monday on a program. I don't know if she wants to talk about that, but
yeah, I think let's wait for the I'll drop some more info when I get the thumbs up.
okay.
I don't want to, yeah.
See
Well,
the
we're going to
promo
be
starting.
There'll be some
So
more
I'm-
Delphi talk coming up on Monday, so I'll just say it like
very soon. There'll be some Delphi. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Have
having
a
us
great
on,
night.
Prop.
Yes,
It's always a
thanks.
good time when I talk to both of you.
Yep.
It's always
You
good.
too. And everybody in the chat, it's sorry we didn't say names. Christina, it's a new day. Dave, Mimi, everybody, Deb, Giuseppe, you name it. Ninja Warrior Assassin, like everybody. Just hi guys, and thanks for being here. I've missed you guys.
Oh, hey, Christina.
Yeah.
I just gotta tell her, I had somebody call me today and ask if that was me. So you all have been watching me on live. I'm not typing anything. We think alike, but I'm not. Oh, hey, Christina. She is her own person, and that's not me.
Yep, absolutely.
It
Awesome.
was a compliment. I felt like it was a compliment. So.
All right.
All right.
Well, good night, you all.
Yep.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for being
Prop.
here. And this was our celebration for oral arguments. All right. Good night, ladies. All right.
Good night, Prop.
Well, guys, tomorrow, Friday night, I will see you. We'll be covering the next section, which is the central section of the appeal of Richard Allen, the most concerning, to a large extent, section, which obviously revolves around the false confessions and all that was done at Westville, the mishandling of his medical condition, the abuse of his medical treatment, and his overall manipulation into being backed into this corner under this delirium, during which suggestions were made to him as he was hallucinating, and phones were given to him, and confessions were extracted from him by the babysitters, I call them, or the doctors, quote unquote caretakers, and that will be pretty difficult. But tomorrow, that is the objective. So we'll be covering the Richard Allen appeal, the central portion of it, tomorrow, just like we did tonight and night before or stream before. So I hope to see you all there. And please, guys, leave a like down in the chat or in the channel, and leave a comment down below if you're on the replay. If you're on the replay and you're new here, it's very important that you get caught up to speed with the real deal. Okay. So we got a lot of resources here on the channel for you to get a sense of the real deal, get oriented, such as this series here called Delphi the Appeal. You can go exhaustively through the appeal and go back in the past month or two. You'll see a lot of informative content. I highly also recommend the Reese Davis videos that you might see that are highly compelling and food for thought. So, with all of that being said, I wish you all a good night and hope to see you again tomorrow and the next time that we all get together. Again, a special shout out to Eric and Christine for being my guests tonight. Uh, we are all really good friends and we talk on a very regular basis as friends. So, this has been, should have happened a long time ago, but we're all trying to do our best and step gently around this case because we don't want to mess it up for Rick Allen and Miss Kathy Allen. I really don't want to mess anything up. Don't want to interfere in any negative way. And so I thought tonight was a good opportunity to come and celebrate and sort of give you guys in the community a little insight into the real people behind the monsters or phantoms that are created by the internet harassers and the gaslighters and exaggerators. I want you to see the real people, and hopefully, you got a taste of the real people. Um, and so that's just a little gift to you guys to be able to see who we really are. And anyhow, I hope to do more of it. But anyway, I want to give a huge thanks to Digital and everyone in the chat. My main mod Deb. Oh hey Christina, Suede's here. Thank you for the super chat, Suede, Fur Baby Daddy. Um, I know that Ninja Warrior Assassin was here. Quadaxo Mimi, Giuseppe was here. My main man, Carla Ann was here. Who's Your Daddy was here earlier. Pishi. Um, let's see, Goose's Gammy. We had Brittany Renee visiting tonight. It was so great to hear her comments, and I love to speak with you and see you again, Brittany. Jojo, good to see you again. I miss you, Jojo. Mandy Boo. Um, who else was here? Sherlock, Matt Payton, always bringing very thought stimulating comments. Um, let's see. I don't want to miss anyone. Smoky Mountain was here. Um, did I say Pisha yet? But Mustang was here as well. And Moonbeam 70s Child, Nicole Watt, Dirty Diana, Gretchen. That's my group of girlfriends, I call them. Violets and Grace was here. We had a Jari. We had a Peggy O was here. We had Shelly Klein in earlier. Aries Fire. Monday was here. Mr. Chris Owens. Rebecca Ann was here. Geez, and the list goes on and on. I know David Rogers was here being super awesome as all the time. Tiger was here. It's a New Day, and artist formerly known was here. Trial Junkie was here. Critter Mama. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And let me just say this: all the names you just heard, they are your Delphi hardcore people. You know, they've been here for years. They've been in this channel for years and in the community for years. So, Tammy Martin, I don't want to leave her out. Pertinent dieharders. Okay, so if I missed you, I apologize, but it's very oddly enough, it's mostly the dieharders to come into the live chat. Although I know we have many, many people who watch. We'll have thousands of people watch this stream, but we'll only have our 50 live chatters or so. So I truly appreciate them being here all the time and always contributing and giving us ideas to knock around and to talk about here. So truly appreciate it. Hug your kids, hug your wife, And more than that, love yourself. Be kind to yourself, because when you're kind to yourself, you're kind to others. Okay? Love you guys, and I'm out. I'm going to leave you with a little of the good old hide your kids.
Well, obviously, we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows. He's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they're raping everybody out here.
Good night.
It was our job to help law enforcement. It was our job to help law enforcement.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
Prof is a fucking terrorist, a fucking pedophile, sympathizing fucking terrorist.
Bruh.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
Bye, you fucking hoe.
Bruh.
Prof is a fucking terrorist.
It's not productive. It's kind of gross and icky. And I feel like it tells us more about them than the people they're trying to degrade. They're always trying to degrade someone.
Bruh.
It was our job to help law enforcement.
Prof is a fucking terrorist.